Good morning, Hollow Gelato Familia. Why am I up right now at 5:30 in the morning? I have no idea. But in any case, the Walt Disney Company will be doing its quarter one fiscal year 2026 earnings call. That's why I'm up at 5:30 in the morning. But joining me today is this guy right here. I'm for sure you guys have seen him on Hollow Gelato a time or two, Mr. Theme Park Conductor. Oh, and he just decided to leave. I'm for sure he'll be back, probably having some tech issues. But yeah, so we're on here to listen to the quarter earnings, the first one of 2026, and Disney has already released the numbers and everything, which of course they'll go over, once they actually start the webcast. And here, let me add him back in. There we go. Oh, can't see. This is what happens when we get up at 5:30 in the morning.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
I pulled a old fashioned trick. As soon as you were getting close to saying my name, I disappeared, and then I reappeared.
Oh yeah, literally. Because I was giving you the introduction, and then you disappeared, and I'm like, well, then fine, then. Like,
Yeah. No,
but in
but
any case, folks, again, take two. This guy is joining me, Mr. Theme Park Conductor. How are you doing today, this morning?
you know what? After after doing such an amazing live stream last night on my channel with Hey Bricky, Tommy Toon World, and Orange Go 55, I'm ecstatic to talk about this because this could be history in the making for us. It really can. I've never been part of an earnings call live stream that has this much anticipation behind it, this much excitement. So I want to thank everybody, and I mean everybody, for waking up with us and joining us this morning as we live stream this amazing quarterly one earnings call of 2026, which again, folks, could possibly be one of the most exciting live stream events that I don't have to pay for in a long time. So I cannot wait.
Absolutely. And I was like putting everything together to listen to the webcast. Now, normally it usually just pops up on the Walt Disney Company website, for which
Sure.
I don't know why it had me kind of do. Maybe they're trying something different for the year 2026, but I ended up like signing up, like it's like a free kind of account thing to get access into it. I don't even know if I was even supposed to do that. I might be like in the secret thing with like the investors. I have no idea if I even have the right thing, but I'm gonna try to get this together because we have, I think, about like less than 10 minutes. um
Yes.
let's see, already registered, and then it just has me enter in my email, for which I did this earlier.
So as you're loading that up, George, I just want to say thank you for inviting me. As always, my partner in crime on the live streams. I'm gonna have two partners in crime here, and I'm surprised I didn't tell Bricky this last night. Two partners in crime: Tommy Toon World with his world famous Steven Spielberg food reviews, and then I got the modern day Ron Howard with me co-hosting this when we just did what a week ago, 11-hour live stream. So
11 hours. Yes.
crazy. And then I did like 4.25 last night with Bricky. I'm telling you, it's weird because it hits different when when you're in a live stream or you're at the park and you're surrounded by people that enjoy and savor the passion that we all do to the level that we do. Like you could talk and it literally feels like 5 minutes, and come to find out it's like 2 hours. It's like, where in the hell did that 5 minutes go? It's
It does.
crazy.
Time time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly. No.
So, but I thank you. I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, you definitely became definitely a partner in crime with me, like covering all this stuff and doing these long-winded marathon conversations and lives and everything. But I greatly appreciate it and I definitely enjoy it. But also, we have to give credit to the awesome people that tune in to listen to us talk and discuss and rant and everything. And so we have Ryan C. Vlogs in the house. Good morning and welcome in. Of course, the hollow to my gelato. We got Abby. And then, of course, Mr. Theme Park Conductor. I mean,
I
he's
don't
always in here.
yeah, I don't know who that guy is. I'm gonna have to research that guy.
Yeah. And then we also have Remy D. What's up, friends? Looks like Disney had a good quarter. Absolutely. Yeah. I was kind of like skimming through the numbers
Sure.
um, for which I wonder if it would let me do. No, it won't let me do two. Well, I'll end up bringing up the because I have the screen kind of set up, but Jack from DSMY Newscast, I think he's like one of the best people that sets up the numbers and breaks it down into the divisions of the company. So I
Sure.
will definitely share my screen for his post that he puts on X after the earnings call. And I didn't actually get a chance to tell you, conductor. Normally, how I do with the quarterly earnings is, like how we react to like a video thing and we pause it and then talk about it and everything.
Sure.
But being that this is like a live quarterly earnings, what I usually do with this is just let the earnings call run through their whole conversation so we don't miss anything, and then we'll discuss it afterwards.
Absolutely. That sounds fine with me.
So that way we're not missing anything. And yeah, as conductor was saying a little bit ago, I mean, this is one way or the other. This is history in the making of just getting a new CEO. You know, we, uh, we've had Bob Iger in the chair for how many years, and due to unforeseen circumstances, he ended up leaving abruptly, and then we got Chapek. He was let go. So it really wasn't done properly, I would say. I think now it's like everything is kind of like coming together of how they usually pick for a the next CEO. Now it's just the waiting game.
No, 100%. And something that you mentioned about Jack and DSNY, I'm not going to say anything until we talk about it, but I'm looking at the numbers myself on X, and they're all positive numbers. Like, I mean, I really, and again, I'm sure we're going to break it down. We're going to hear more about it from Iger and all that. But I don't really see any negative. All I see is positive. So it makes me wonder, George, since we talked about it, I think it was either the day of or the day before when we did that legendary live stream was um that Epic Universe and Comcast put out their numbers and it was extremely positive. I wonder if Epic Universe not just benefited obviously Universal Comcast, but they also benefited the Walt Disney World Resort because obviously Epic Universe was drawing in the crowds, and obviously they still have way farther to go because they already claimed that they're not even at full capacity yet. But I wonder if these numbers that Jack from DSNY posted, um, I really honestly wonder if Epic Universe had something to do with that, in a sense.
um it's possible. I think even though there's people on the spectrum that say Disney doesn't have to respond to Epic Universe, or people that say they do need to respond to Epic Universe. One way
Sure.
or the other, all these companies intertwine with each other for the good, the bad, and the ugly. I
Yeah.
think of how Universal's numbers go can reflect on Disney's and vice versa. So, I think really anything is possible, in that department.
Definitely. No, 100%. So I just yeah, I'm not really seeing too bad of a numbers. There's obviously things that, you know, I think could be a little bit better by looking at it, but for what it is, it's not a bad situation. Um, so we'll have to wait and see. Literally.
Yeah. And yeah, we only have like I'd say like what, a little less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share the screen.
I love that sound. That's awesome.
Okay, good, perfect. I was just gonna say, like, I was gonna ask you, can you hear the sound?
Yes, I can. So I love that.
Yeah, they always like started off with like, as I said, this is usually like very different than how it is. It's usually like set up on the main website of the Walt Disney Company website, and usually you could just access it. You just click the link, and boom, it just takes you right to it, and you just press play. Where
Sure.
this, I clicked the link, which I actually found on the website of laughingplace.com.
Wow.
And oh, sorry, and I heard the music go off, so I wasn't sure if it was starting or not. But and then I just clicked the link, and then it brought me to this website, and it says like sign up, or if you're a guest, and it just said, put in your name and email. But as I said, I've never done that before, so I don't know if this is new for 2026, or I don't know. Maybe as I said, maybe I just got like thrown into with all the investors, and I might have someone say, you're on the call with Bob Iger, ask your question. It's
That would be funny as hell. Because we were literally just talking about it too, doing a call in
yeah,
on our live streams. That would be funny as hell.
yeah. Though I'll go next after Bank of America.
Oh my god. Oh, here we
But yeah,
go.
I
It's
think I
5:30.
think this is it though, because it's playing the music. It has the Walt Disney Company logo, and it says the quarter one fiscal 26 earnings call. So
There we go.
Welcome to the Walt Disney Company first quarter 2026 financial results conference call. My name is Lauren, and I will be your moderator today. After today's presentation, there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. If you would like to ask a question, then please press star followed by 1 on your telephone keypad. Please note that today's event is being recorded. I would now like to turn the call over to Carlos Gomez, Executive Vice President, Treasurer, and Head of Investor Relations. Please go ahead.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to welcome everyone to the Walt Disney Company's first quarter 2026 earnings call. Our press release, Form 10-Q, and management's posted prepared remarks were issued earlier this morning and are available on our website at www.disney.com/investors. Today's call is being webcast, and the replay and transcript will be made available on our website after the call. Before we begin, please take note of our cautionary statement regarding forward-looking statements on our IR websites. Today's call may include forward-looking statements that we make pursuant to the safe harbor provisions of the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. These forward-looking statements, including regarding the company's future business plans, prospects, and financial performance, are not historical in nature and are based on management's assumptions regarding the future and are subject to risks and uncertainties, including, among other factors, economic, geopolitical, operating and industry conditions, competition, execution risks, the market for advertising, our future financial performance, and legal and regulatory developments. Refer to our investor relations website, the press release issued today, and the risks and uncertainties described in our Form 10-K, subsequent Form 10-Qs, and other filings with the SEC for more information regarding factors and risks that could cause results to differ from those in the forward-looking statements. A reconciliation of certain non-GAAP measures referred to on this call to the most comparable GAAP measures can be found on our Investor Relations website. Joining me this morning are Bob Iger, Disney's Chief Executive Officer, and Hugh Johnston, Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. Following introductory remarks from Bob, we will be happy to take your questions. So with that, I will now turn the call over to Bob.
Thank you, Carlos, and good morning, everyone. We are pleased with the start of our fiscal year, and our achievements reflect the tremendous progress we've made. Beginning with our entertainment segment, our film studios generated more than $6.5 billion at the global box office in calendar year 2025, making this our third biggest year ever and our ninth year as number one at the global box office over the past decade. Avatar: Fire and Ash became our latest release to cross the $1 billion threshold, joining Zootopia 2 and Lilo & Stitch to mark $3 billion titles in 2025. Zootopia 2 also became Hollywood's highest-grossing animated film ever and one of the top 10 highest-grossing films of all time, earning more than $1.7 billion and firmly establishing itself as a popular new franchise. This builds on a rich legacy of both creative and box office success for Disney. To date, $37 billion films have come from our studios out of the 60 films that have hit this mark industry-wide. That's 4 times more than any other studio. Great storytelling generates value across our interconnected businesses, with hits like Zootopia 2 lifting viewership of related titles on Disney+ and fueling global interest in our parks and consumer products. The film also became the highest-grossing foreign film of all time in China, where the franchise is an important driver of attendance at Shanghai Disneyland, with our Zootopia theme land one of the most popular areas of the park. Looking ahead to our upcoming slate, we are excited about numerous titles coming to theaters this year, including The Devil Wears Prada 2, The Mandalorian and Grogu, Toy Story 5, the live-action Moana, and Avengers: Doomsday. Turning to streaming, our performance in the quarter reflects the strength of our content and continued technology improvements. We're seeing encouraging results from our investment in local content as we continue our focus on international growth. We're also rolling out product enhancements to elevate the user experience on Disney+, and we're layering in additional ways to engage audiences by developing new vertical and short-form experiences, with plans to introduce a curated slate of Sora-generated content on Disney+, following our recently announced licensing agreement with OpenAI. We also took a major step forward with the launch of ESPN Unlimited, and while still early days, we're pleased with the adoption and engagement we've seen with the new app. ESPN is the industry leader in sports, offering fans the most compelling portfolio of live sports, studio shows, and original content with multiple ways to watch. And in Q1, ESPN delivered outstanding ratings across our portfolio of live sports. Highlights include ESPN's most-watched college football regular season since 2011, with ABC achieving its best college football season since 2006. Monday Night Football delivered its second highest viewership in 20 years. And season to date, ESPN has delivered its third most watched NBA regular season ever. We also just closed our transaction with the NFL to acquire NFL Network and other media assets, including the linear rights to the league's popular Red Zone channel, further bolstering ESPN's offering with an even richer content experience for football fans. Turning to our experiences segment, we had a solid start to the fiscal year with quarterly revenue exceeding $10 billion for the first time. We have expansion projects underway at every one of our theme parks, and next month, we're excited to welcome guests to the new world of Frozen at the completely reimagined Disney Adventure World at Disneyland Paris. This milestone marks the beginning of a bold new era for Disneyland Paris, nearly doubling the size of the second park. At Disney Cruise Line, we recently launched the Disney Destiny, which has received outstanding reviews from guests. We're also preparing for the launch of the Disney Adventure next month, which will be our first ship home ported in Asia. bringing immersive Disney storytelling to more people globally than ever before. Overall, our results this quarter reflect our hard work and strategic investments across each of our priorities. And I'm incredibly proud of all that we've accomplished over the past 3 years to set Disney on the path of continued growth. And I'm inspired and energized by the opportunities ahead for this wonderful company. With that, we will be happy to take your questions.
Thanks, Bob. As we transition to Q&A, we ask that you please try to limit yourselves to one question in order to get to as many questions as possible today. And with that, operator, we're ready for the first question.
Thank you. Our first question comes from Robert Fishman from MoffettNathanson. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Bob, you've made some significant IP deals for Disney over the years. So I'm wondering, as you watch from the sidelines, the value being ascribed to Warner Brothers and HBO, does that change or impact any of your strategies to better monetize or unlock the value of all of Disney's premium IP? And then, Hugh, if I can squeeze in a quick one, the absence of subscriber disclosure, just wondering if you can help us better understand the drivers of SVOD's 13% subscription revenue growth, any breakdown of U.S. international, or how you expect subscription and advertising revenue to trend over the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Look, if anything, the battle for control of Warner Brothers Discovery, I think, should emphasize or cause investors to appreciate the tremendous value of our assets, particularly our IP. It includes, obviously, all of our brands and our franchises. And also, let's not forget ESPN. The other thing I'm reminded of is the deal we did for Fox, in many ways, was ahead of its time. We knew that we would need more volume in terms of IP. And we did that deal, actually announced it in 2017, closed it in 19. And I also, as I look at it, I think it was extremely well priced, considering what's being offered for the Warner Brothers Discovery assets. We have a great hand as I look across, for instance, what our experiences business is currently building. I think more than anything, it illustrates the value of that IP beyond the big screen. But you also have to look at what we've done on the big screen with $6 billion movies just in the last 2 years and $37 billion movies over time. Those throw off a tremendous amount of value and very long-term value. For instance, the lift on Disney Plus that Zootopia 2 and Avatar Fire and Ash have created is enormous in terms of first streams and in terms of hours engagement. And I already talked about our parks, but we're opening Frozen Land in Paris in just a couple of months. We obviously have Star Wars presence. The Zootopia Land in Shanghai is enormous in terms of both its size and its value. The percentage of people that go to Shanghai Disneyland just to go to Zootopia Land is very, very high. So I think we have a great hand. I don't really feel that we have a need to buy more IP. We're just going to continue to create our own, and we've got an unbelievable bedrock of stories already told to grow from.
Okay. And then, Robert, on the subscription side, revenue growth was driven by a couple of factors. First, of course, was pricing. Second, both North American and international growth. And third was bundling, the Duo, the Trio, and the Max bundles all doing well and driving both engagement and revenue realization.
Thanks, Robert. Operator, next question, please.
The next question comes from Stephen Cahall from Wells Fargo. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Good morning. So, Hugh, last quarter, there was a lot of focus on the domestic park trends. It looks like you saw some improvement there, maybe even a bit of a snapback at attendance and per caps domestically. Could you give us any more color on how Walt Disney World did within there? I think you've spoken to some specific trends there more recently. And any commentary on the bookings pacing to the extent that you think that's a helpful indicator of where demand goes from here. And then just on the guidance, a couple of detailed questions there. No mention of fiscal 27 adjusted EPS growth in the earnings release. Should we assume that's something that's still double digit or something that you're going to revisit? And same question on CapEx. Thank you.
Sure, Steve. A couple of notes on that. One, Walt Disney World had a very good quarter, obviously benefited from the overlap of the hurricane, but in addition to that, saw strong attendance performance as well as strong pricing performance. As far as bookings for the full year, bookings are up 5% for the full year, weighted more toward the back half. So certainly trending very positively in that regard. And then last, regarding 27 guidance, no update on that. You should assume that we're not changing any of that, or we would have an update. So no change there.
Thanks, Steve. Operator, next question, please.
The next question comes from Jessica Reif Ehrlich from Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Good morning. So one for Bob and one operational. Bob, when you took over for, you're coming towards the end, I should start with that, towards the end of your reign as CEO. And when you took over from Michael Eisner, you quickly took many steps that had a huge impact on profit growth for years. And like just two examples were moving Monday Night Football from ABC to ESPN, so you had a dual revenue stream for the first time, and then making peace with Steve Jobs and subsequently acquiring Pixar. So as you prepare to hand over the reins, do you see any areas your successor can really kind of jump start that would really drive the business for the long term? And then I guess just on an operational level, you mentioned that you just closed your deal with NFL. How do you see the relationship and the business evolving with the NFL, including the likely early renewal? You guys may be a year later, not sure.
Well, Jessica, first of all, thank you for noting some of the steps that I took when I became CEO. That's a long time ago, and I'm certainly proud of those, as I am proud of a lot of the other things that we did thereafter. I think what is noteworthy is that when I came back 3 years ago, I had a tremendous amount that needed fixing. But anyone who runs a company also knows that it can't just be about fixing. It has to be about preparing a company for its future and really taking steps to create opportunities for growth. So while I don't want to really either get too nostalgic or spend too much time on possible transition or the probable transition, the good news is that the company is in much better shape today than it was 3 years ago because we have done a lot of fixing, but we've also put in place a number of opportunities, including the investment across our experiences business to essentially expand at every location that we do business and on the high seas. I also believe that in a world that changes as much as it does, that in some form or another, trying to preserve the status quo was a mistake, and I'm certain that my successor will not do that. So they'll be handed, I think, a good hand in terms of the strength of the company, a number of opportunities to grow, and also the exhortation that in a world that changes, you also have to continue to change and evolve as well. Your second question regarding the NFL, we're really happy that we were able to close it when we did. That enables us to get started sooner than we actually had anticipated. And so the upcoming NFL season, which will end in ESPN's first Super Bowl, is a huge opportunity for ESPN, not only in terms of its ability to manage the NFL network and Red Zone, but also with more NFL inventory. And we know how valuable that is and how valuable it will be, particularly for ESPN's streaming business. I'm not going to comment at all about the future of ESPN's relationship with the NFL, except to say that the NFL has an opt-out in the current agreement in 2030. And I think it's just premature to speculate what might happen at that point.
Thanks, Jessica. Operator, next question, please.
The next question comes from Thomas Yeh from Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
Thanks so much. Quick one on the streaming side. I wanted to ask about the progress on new bundle initiatives. I think you mentioned the pace of ESPN Unlimited signups. Are you seeing the uptake coming through maybe less on the bundled side versus the authenticated PTV side? And what's expected to drive that next leg of adoption? And then if you could give us an update on the plans around the Hulu integration and the key steps that you plan to take this year on that front, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
Thomas, look, we've made huge progress turning the streaming business into a profitable business, developing the technology tools to improve both the user experience and to improve results, and also developing programming across the globe. And I think it sets the business up to lean into accelerated growth that you'll probably be hearing about more in the future. The things you have to look at in terms of the components of growth are, one, continuing to deliver exceptional content, particularly on the international front. Two, advancing the technology improvements that I just cited. Three, answering your question, delivering a unified app experience. And then the fourth would be introducing new features such as vertical videos, Sora-generated content, et cetera, which we've talked about. So far, the integrated experience that we've already offered with Disney Plus and Hulu has resulted in a reduction in churn. And that's the same is true for the bundle with ESPN, that the bundled subscribers churn out less. And we know that reducing churn is a critical component to improving the bottom line or to creating growth. And so we are hard at work on the technology front to create the one app experience, even though consumers will always be able to buy Disney Plus or Hulu on its own. But by and large, we believe the great majority of consumers will buy both, and it will be a fully integrated experience. I would guess that would be coming sometime at the end of the calendar year.
Thanks, Thomas. Operator, next question, please.
The next question comes from David Karnovsky from JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Thank you. With the OpenAI agreement, Bob, can you discuss how you plan to curate and deploy user-generated AI content across your platforms? Would this be entirely for vertical video? And then what would be your expectation for how a ramp in AI content might impact downstream demand or relationship for new programming or archive from your franchises? Thanks.
Well, good question. First of all, what the deal actually covers is a license agreement between ourselves and OpenAI to enable people to prompt Sora to create 30-second videos of about 250 of our characters that do not include a human voice or face. That's a 3-year agreement that we are getting paid for. In addition, we will have the ability to use those videos, those Sora-created videos, in a curated form on Disney Plus. We have for a while wanted to include or add a feature on Disney Plus, as ESPN did, by the way, in its new offering, that is both user-generated, but more importantly, short form. ESPN's is short form. Because we have obviously noticed the huge growth in short form and user-generated content on other platforms, such as YouTube. So what this deal does is, by giving us the ability to curate what has been basically created by Sora onto Disney Plus, is it jumpstarts our ability to have short form video on Disney Plus. Additionally, it's our hope that we will use the Sora tools to enable subscribers of Disney Plus to create short form videos on our platform through Sora. And so it's all, I think, a positive step in terms of adding a feature that we believe will greatly enhance engagement. The second part of your question about its impact on other programming, the answer is I don't really see that it will have any impact at all. We view AI as having a number of obviously possible advantages or opportunities for the company. One is as a tool to help the creative process, so creativity. Another is productivity, which is simply being more efficient. And the third I'll call connectivity, which is creating basically a more intimate relationship with the consumer, enabling the consumer and enabling us with the consumer just to have a more engaged, more effective relationship.
Thanks, David. Operator, next question, please.
The next question comes from Kannan Venkateshwar from Barclays. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So Hugh, maybe one for you in terms of drag of on the streaming business. I mean, you've been investing in this business both in terms of unifying the interface and, as well as international content and so on. Would be good to understand how much of a drag this is and, to that extent, how much operating leverage could be extracted out of it as you go into next year and beyond. And then, Bob, from your perspective, as you plan your transition, do you think the org structure is more or less in place in terms of leaders of different divisions and how the company's operated on a day-to-day basis? Or is that something that's also part of the transition plan to the extent you can share? Thank you.
Hugh, I'll take the second part, and then I'll give it to you on the org structure. One of the things that I did when I came back 3 years ago was to reorganize the company, and the primary goal was to create more accountability on the streaming side. Our studio and our television organization basically spent the most money, obviously generating content for streaming. And I felt strongly that those people that were investing the most needed to have much more skin in the game in terms of the impact of their spending on the bottom line. And so by putting streaming in the hands of Alan Bergman and Dana Walden, those that run our movie and TV business globally, there was a direct connection between their investments and ultimately the bottom line of the streaming business. 3 years ago, that business, I think it lost about $1.5 billion in the last quarter before I came back, and I think almost $4 billion that last year. And you see the results this quarter and what we've managed to do in the last year, where it's making more than $1 billion, and we're on a path to turning into a far better business. That reorganization worked. I'm not going to speak for my successor in terms of how the company will be organized, but I do believe strongly that it's very important that any organization that's created is created with an eye toward creating and maintaining accountability.
Okay, and I'll jump in on the streaming question. You're right in that we were certainly investing in the business. At one point a few years ago, in fact, we were losing $1 billion a quarter. That number improved substantially. Bob laid out a goal for us to return or to get streaming to profitability and then to get it to double-digit margins. Recall last year we got it to a 5 margin, and we stated we have a goal this year and guidance this year to achieve a 10 margin. In terms of the quarter, we delivered 12% revenue growth and about a little over 50% earnings growth. So from that perspective, we are driving a lot of operating leverage out of the business. And we would certainly expect to continue to drive operating leverage going forward, even while we invest in international content and invest in technology to make the product better. The balancing act, of course, is we want to continue to grow at a rapid rate while driving operating leverage. We talked last call on about a goal of achieving double-digit revenue growth, and in fact, we did do that on the first quarter, and that's something we aspire to continue to do.
Thanks, Kannan. Operator, next question, please.
The next question comes from Michael Morris from Guggenheim. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. I wanted to ask first about the entertainment segment and just maybe unpack the drivers a little bit of the second quarter guidance for comparable operating income. And then, of course, the full year getting to double digits, certainly with the acceleration in the back half. Can you just talk about what's different in 2Q and then how that will change in the back half of the year for the guide? And then on the sports segment, if I could, the 4% decline from fewer subscribers is clearly a meaningful improvement from the 7 to 8% that you had in prior periods. Was that all driven by the launch of the ESPN streaming service, or are you seeing any improvement in the bundle trend as well? Thank you.
Sure. Happy to talk about both of those. The big difference in terms of entertainment and the quarters is really around the various product launches we have. On the network side, Q2, we have a couple of shows launching versus nothing to speak of last year. So from that standpoint, that's what's driving the change. In the back half of the year, we have a really strong theatrical slate between Devil Wears Prada 2, Mandalorian and Grogu, and Toy Story 5, and live action Moana. So it's really that's driving the big differences. And of course, that slate is terrific both from an operating performance in the current year, but also with that new IP sets us up well for both consumer products and for the parks downstream.
Hugh, let me just add that both Zootopia 2 and Avatar Fire and Ash will also be on the streaming service at some point between now and the end of the year. And I referenced this earlier, but first streams on Disney Plus for the prior Zootopia and Avatar movies approached a million first streams. And second, the number of hours consumed of the first Zootopia movie and the first and second Avatar movies is in the hundreds of, I think it's almost a couple of 100 million new hours consumed. And so when you look at putting those two films on Disney Plus between now and the end of the fiscal year, obviously that's going to have significant value for the streaming service.
Thanks, Mike. Operator, next question, please.
The next question comes from John Hodulik from UBS. Please go ahead.
Great, thanks. Good morning. Just a couple quick ones. First, a follow-up on the Sora commentary. Bob, when do you envision the user-generated content showing up on the Disney Plus platform? When can we expect to see that? And do you expect over time it to grow beyond the 30-second videos in the current agreement? And then a follow-up for Hugh. The letter calls out lack of visibility on international visitation in the parks, I guess despite the 5% increase in bookings. Just is that international visitation, is that incremental to what we've been seeing? And then any color you can give us on bookings for the adventure would be great too. Thanks.
John, we're not being specific about Sora timing. We're working through all the technical details of that. I imagine it'll be sometime in fiscal 2026. And for now, we're sticking to the 30-second limit on videos created. Down the road, not sure, but we're not really focused on that at this point.
Right, and in terms of international visitation, because international visitors do tend to stay in Disney hotels less, we do have a bit less visibility on that front. That said, we were able to read it from other indicators. And as a result of that, we pivoted our marketing and sales efforts, promotional as well as marketing efforts, to a more domestic audience. And we're able to keep attendance rates high from that perspective.
Thanks, John. Operator, next question, please.
The next question comes from Peter Supino from Wolfe Research. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. On the subject of the entertainment segment disclosure change, I wondered if you could help us understand how the new disclosure aligns better with how you think about that business's future and how you think about managing it, what it allows you to do or communicate differently that makes your life and ours better. Thank you.
Sure, happy to talk about that. Look, the reality of it is we manage the entertainment business as a single entity. The notion of talking about linear networks separate from streaming, separate from theatrical, I think really creates a lot of complexity that's just not reflective of the reality. If you think about the networks versus streaming, really what that is a product of consumers choosing to pivot from one form of distribution channel to another form of distribution channel. So for us to kind of get into a lot of depth in terms of what's happening there, I don't think is terribly informative to investors. And it's not reflective of the way that we create or distribute content. We create content and we basically put it across all of our distribution channels. So I think it's just a level of nuance that may have been relevant in the past, but just isn't relevant anymore. And that's why we made the change.
Thanks, Peter. Operator, we have time for one last question.
The final question today comes from Jason Bazinet from Citi. Please go ahead.
Just had a question for Mr. Iger. When you first became CEO, I remember investors would lament your parks business as the worst business in the portfolio. And now when I chat with investors, everyone says, oh, the majority of Disney is really the parks business, 60-odd% of the EBIT. My question is, you've got sort of two vectors going on. You are in the early stages of the streaming pivot. You're showing good progress there. But on the other hand, you've been committed to invest a lot of capital in the experiences business. If you went out 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, pick your horizon, do you think the EBIT mix will be more balanced at Disney going forward? Or do you think it will still be a experiences-driven company in terms of the quantum of profits? Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Look, if you go all the way back to 2005 when I became CEO, the return on invested capital in the then Parks and Resorts business was not impressive and actually not acceptable. And we also had not that much building in progress, meaning there wasn't much expansion, but maybe for good reason, because the return on invested capital was so low. As we added IP to our stable, including Pixar in 2006 and Marvel in 2009, and Lucasfilm Star Wars in 2012, and ultimately 20th Century Fox, we gained access to intellectual property that had real value in terms of parks and resorts and enabled us to lean into more capital spending because of the confidence level we had in improving returns on invested capital due to the popularity of that IP. And when you look at the footprint of the business today, it's never been more broad or more diverse. And the projects that we have underway are going to make it even more so. As I said, we're expanding in every place we operate. And additionally, having been in Abu Dhabi just 2 weeks ago, I was reminded of how great the potential is to build in that part of the world. Because not only is it strategically located to reach a huge population that has never visited our parks, but it'll be built in one of the most modern and technologically advanced ways. So, as I look ahead, I actually am very, very bullish on that business and its ability to grow because of everything that I just cited. In addition, though, because of what Hugh said about the trajectory of our streaming business and what we know is in the pipeline in our movie business, and also looking back just a few years when our movie business was suffering from COVID and the streaming business was obviously in not an acceptable place, it's clear that the future of both of those businesses, or let's call it our entertainment business, is also bright and is going to grow. So we have a healthy competition now at our company in terms of which of those two businesses is going to essentially prevail as the number one driver of profitability for the company. But I'm confident that both have that ability, meaning both have the ability to grow nicely into the future, given all the investments that we've made and the trajectory that we're on.
Thanks, Jason, and thanks to everyone for your questions today. We wish you all a good rest of the day. Take care.
This concludes today's call. Thank you for joining, everyone. You may now disconnect your lines.
That was quite that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I feel like they actually took more questions than they usually do.
Yeah, and I kind of felt, and I understand it. I kind of felt, and I even told you during the 11-hour live stream, and then a live stream we did the day after that. I mentioned at one point or another, I said, well, it's a good possibility they might say the successor's name, but it's more of a possibility. And now, you have Tom Corliss from WDWNT, you have Jack from DSNY, you have all these other big platforms stating, and even Disney themselves saying that the next successor for Bob Iger will be announced this week, but they're going to vote on it. So I'm wondering on that aspect. I'm wondering before we get to the financials, if they are not 100% sure and they have to go back and re-vote again with the board, and they're not 100% sure if everyone's betting card is Josh, and now they're trying to reevaluate by saying, well, we're going to vote on this decision later this week and make a public statement.
I could be wrong, but I think they still already know who they have.
Mm-hmm.
I think technically, in a way, that they already voted. They're
Yeah.
just telling us they're now voting. I think they wanted to get the quarterly earnings kind of out of the way. And I
Sure.
think they're trying to find that sweet spot time of when to make that announcement. Because now that the quarter one is done, now we're moving into quarter two. So this impact will start the change of CEO will start the impact for quarter two earnings and moving forward. Plus, I think now that I'm really thinking about it, I said, I wonder if they would make the announcement during the shareholders meeting. I think they're going to make the announcement prior and be ready for the shareholders meeting.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because the shareholders meeting, again, this is my first earnings call, and I'm very appreciative, George, that I could be with you this morning. But on the holders meeting, do those typically go a little bit longer than the earnings call? Because if that's the case, you hit the nail on the head with that. They'll probably make the announcement of the Bob's successor, and then a lot of questions are going to be between Bob and his successor, talking about things, taking questions and whatnot. Do you think that's a possibility?
I think so, because correct me if I'm wrong, or anyone in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe Demaro, a time or two, was on the shareholders meeting.
Sure.
Not every single one, but I think there was a couple that he showcased himself. But I could see like the two of them kind of going on the shareholders meeting, assuming Bob still sticks around for the shareholders meeting. It may actually be all Demaro, or whoever the new CEO is. Bob may be already stepped down by that time.
That's more than possible, because we've also seen articles posted online again by these big platforms, and even Disney themselves, stating that Bob Iger is actually looking at stepping down before his deadline on December 31st, 2026. So it makes me wonder as well if the person that he already knows is going to take over for him, that he's so confident that he's going to do well, he's going to take the reins and really run with it, that he doesn't have to worry as much. That's why he's making that public statement, because when he left the first time and gave the reins to Chapek, I never felt that Iger really came out and made statements like that. So he must feel pretty confident, whoever is taking over for him, that he feels that this person's going to do an amazing job.
And you make a very good point there, and that's why, going back to my previous statement, that's why I think the board and the executives already know who it is.
Oh yeah.
Bob is not going to be confident to say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take my leave early," before they even agree upon who it is. They all know who it is. They have to. And Ryan C Vlogs confirms that, yes. Thank you so much, Ryan. Demaro was on with Iger a time or two during the shareholders.
Well, go ahead.
And
Go
then
ahead.
Remy D says, FYI, Disney attendance rose 1% this quarter over last year. So definitely Disney parks still resilient in the face increases universal competition.
100%.
And then Ryan C. Vlog says, I think Bob will have stepped on by then and letting Josh have the keys. Yeah, basically
No.
the keys to the kingdom.
Oh, exactly. And before you pull up the screenshot from Jack and DSNY, two things I have to ask you. One of them is just pointing out a good friend of ours in the chat that was just down here at the Disneyland Resort to do the Run Disney Marathon, because he does marathons all over the world. Um, he mentioned, and this is from Jason Hill. He said, "I like how Conductor calls us investors as fans and in money as much, but in our time." So I really do find passion in that. I honestly do feel that we are investors. We're not just fans, we're investors. When we go to the park, the moment we park our car in the parking structure and we get on that tram and we walk our first 5 steps in the Walt's original Magic Kingdom right then and there, I don't consider us fans. I consider us investors. I consider us citizens of Disney. I don't consider us fans, and that's one of the things I kind of took away from Bricky when I had him on Conductor Sunday live stream last night. Was he's like, I don't like the word fans. I like the word friends. So when you come up to me and you say hi and, oh, can I get a picture with you, Bricky? Blah 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 blah, and a lot of times people will say, oh, I'm such a huge fan of yours, and Bricky's like, no, 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 no. You're not a fan of mine. You're a friend of mine. And that's kind of how I kind of associate that comment and that statement from him, and agreeing with Jason Hill on that. I kind of feel that same level of atrocity um that Bricky made last night in the live stream. And then I do like the second part of this statement where it says, I wish they gave us an opportunity like for us and maybe the bigger platforms. So like Tom Corliss from WNT, Jack from DSNY, you got Mice Chat, and some of these massive platforms
Yeah,
that represent all of us.
yeah, I agree with both of you. I agree with you, and I agree with Jason that because even cast members have used that term where when you go to purchase a Magic Key, a cast member, Antoinette, who I spoke to on the phone, she said these Magic Keys, when I was buying my new one, she said these Magic Keys are investments.
Yep.
That's basically what it is. And that is very true. And I'm not saying that these people from these big time companies of JP Morgan and Bank of America and what have you are irrelevant. Of course, I mean, they're putting in big money and stocks into the Walt Disney Company. So yeah, they have every right to ask questions, but also at the same time, I think we have every right to ask questions and concerns because more importantly, we're the consumer.
Yeah.
More money is coming out of our pockets than any other big investor.
No, 100%. And that's
All these numbers that we're going to go over.
Sure.
They're because of us.
Yeah.
The numbers for all these movies that Iger was talking about with Zootopia 2 and Fire and Ash and the slate of movies coming out with Doomsday and the live action Moana and Toy Story 5. It's all revenue coming from us going to see these movies in theaters. And then in the parks, which did record numbers that it hit $10 billion, which it never hit that feat before. Again, where'd that $10 billion come from? It came from us.
See, that's what I mean. Again, I kind of wish, and I agree with Jason Hill, and I love his statement. I love it, and I love hanging out with him in the park. He's so intelligent. Is that I do, since there's so many of us, a big number of us that cover the theme parks and have the passion and really dive deep in the details. I kind of wish they would have that segment where it wasn't just the JP Morgans and the Wells Fargos and all the big tech companies asking these questions and financial banking companies asking these questions. I wish they would set aside, maybe 15, 20 minutes and have, again, representatives that represent all of us in this space and and these topics. Like, again, Tom Chorus from WDWNT, Mice Chat, Jack from DSNY, and they represent all of us, and they can ask these questions. I'm really hoping going forward, they kind of look at that, they address that, and make
Well,
who knows, that could be something the next CEO that takes over for Iger can really put his stamp on, because we've asked this question, a bunch of us have asked this question and said, what can the new CEO, the new successor of Bob Iger, really put his stamp on for the Walt Disney Company that his name will always be associated with, kind of like with what Iger did with Galaxy's Edge and the Fox acquisition and buying Lucasfilm. That's tied to his name forever. But what can the new CEO? How can the new CEO do that? And what would he do it with?
because the new CEO is going to have to make their own big power plays as
Sure.
CEO. And as Bob kind of hinted um, when he said that I don't really see the need to, purchase any acquisitions for future IP. We're going to make our own. So, I mean, again, it's still really up to the next CEO, but it definitely sounds like that there's not going to be any more purchases. I think that Bob kind of set the stage for the next CEO with that, for purchasing Pixar and Lucasfilm and Marvel and Fox. So they're kind of set on that. So I think the bigger power moves that the next CEO would probably do is make some moves, with the parks and the experiences. Like some of the examples that we mentioned on our 11-hour live marathon was like do something that Bob didn't do, or maybe something that Bob didn't consider, you know, change some things, go back to the original ways of how the parks are run, or add something, or, do something with Tomorrowland or something. Do something where it's going to put you in the spotlight for all the positive right reasons. And then as far as what you were saying about have Jack from DSNY or Tom Corliss, I would love for them to represent us. But at the same time, I still would love to be able to get on, because as I said, if I had the opportunity to get on, this would be my two-part question. For me, this is everything. It's like my two-part question, at least for this quarter, would be, when does the D23 tickets info, it put into, but I wanted info, I don't know why they did that, drop? And then more importantly, why on God's green earth did they get rid of my hot honey chicken sandwich at Hungry Bear?
Yeah. No,
you know
no,
how
no,
much
no.
revenue they'd be making on me if they still
Hey.
had that sandwich?
Hey, there you go. They would have to rename that sandwich to the Hollow Gelato honey chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
Literally. No, but see, it's interesting you come up with that question, because my question to Bob and that other gentleman would be, okay, well, when you look at when you look at the Disneyland Resort, right, and you have a land that is falling apart, that's decrepit, and that it's basically the land of the past and not the land of the future, like, Walt Disney himself envisioned when he went to the World's Fair to showcase, his ideas and whatnot. And my question would be, why do you guys why do you guys feel that land should be untouched, but yet you're spending all this other money on projects for DCA? And I understand we've all said it. I'm deferring from that, but we've all said it that DCA needs help. But in the other atrium, you got a land that Walt Disney himself really, really, really took passion to. Calling it Tomorrowland and the land of the future with technology and innovation, but yet you let the land just be a skeleton of itself, and it's bad showmanship regardless if um regardless if people still go into that land. Does it really deserve to be sitting there rotting away just because people go in there and get the popcorn buckets and maybe hit Space Mountain and go experience Star Tours and Astro Blasters? Is really 3 attractions justification for just letting it sit and rot away?
And this is my hope that if Josh tomorrow does become CEO, and I hope if he does become CEO, this is the approach that I hope he takes. Being that he is Parks chairman right now, then
Sure.
maybe going in as the CEO, he would have the mindset to say, "Hey, I worked for the parks. I know how this kind of works." So then he could then articulate that back to the new chairman of parks and say, "Hey, I was in your spot. Now I'm CEO. Let's try to clean this up a bit."
Yeah.
So that's what I hope. But really quick, wanted to say welcome into John, Make It Rain. And then also Alexander Wilson, welcome in. And said, did you see in the reports that foreign attendance is done at the parks in America? This is interesting. Yeah, I did find that interesting because also, too, what I find interesting with that in the call, I think it was Hugh Johnson that said it, I believe that he said that a lot of the international tourists don't stay on
On Disney.
property.
Yeah.
And I
And
found that very interesting. I thought all the more for an international tourist they would.
yeah.
So I find that very interesting. And then also too, Bob mentioned, speaking of international, that Bob mentioned Abu Dhabi. And I know a lot of people are thinking, they didn't really mention anything of it since the big announcement. Did it get canceled? Is it on hold? It's still moving forward.
It
Trust me.
is.
Abu Dhabi is willing to fork out their own money. Disney doesn't have to put a dime out for it. They basically can license out their characters, their products, create everything on someone else's money. Trust me, it's still moving forward.
No, 100%. And I don't know if you have the charts up and ready to go, George, but why you do that? It's something, again, I share a massive, massive passion for, and I'm really, really honestly hoping, because there's a lot of I know Iger said during the call that when he came back 3 years ago, there was a lot to clean up, a lot to fix, and he's done a lot of damage control to basically hand the new CEO that's going to be taken over, a golden plate. And my whole thing is, well, he doesn't really talk about it, and I get it. It's a shareholders meeting. It's not a free for all, but I'm going to reference back to it. That New York Times article, I'm serious. That New York Times article that we all read really exposed a handful of things that Iger said during this earnings call. It's like, well, if you know that information's out in the public forum, why would you say why would you say certain things when you know it's not true? That's kind of where I'm at with it. And believe me, I don't say that I don't say that with all due respect. I don't mean it negative. My whole thing is, why did it happen? What happened? And how can we move forward from here? Because the last thing I want to see personally, because Iger's 71 years old. Okay, he's already come back twice, and the last thing I want is the new CEO to start making moves, start making changes, start, leaving his legacy on the company. And Iger doesn't like what's going on, and he comes back for a third time, which I think would just it would be bad. Um, but I want to ask you, George, one more question before you bring up the charts and whatnot from Jack from DSNY.
Mhm.
Is because Iger really, and we've all noticed it, he really honestly takes a lot of pride in Shanghai Disney. So this D23 coming up in August, even though at some point between now and August he could officially step down as CEO, do you think if tomorrow is named CEO, or even Dana Walden is named CEO, or maybe a third person we're just not thinking of, do you think they would bring Iger on stage and for him to talk about Shanghai Disney? Because it clearly reflects that Iger has really, really had a massive interest in the Shanghai Disney, kind of like what Michael Eisner did with Disneyland Paris, or at the time Euro Disney.
I think so. I think even though if he is technically already done, um, like as CEO, I still think they would they still would ask him
Sure.
to come on. I think just as a guest, I think that would be actually really nice and really respectful to the fact that he, played a tremendous part in that. Um, Also, too, before I bring up the numbers,
Sure.
is that the woman that was from, I believe it was Bank of America, when she was mentioning all the stuff that Iger did when he first became uh, CEO, he was just eating that up. Like, he
Yeah,
was like, "Oh, yeah, well, thank you so much for, like, mentioning all that stuff." Like, it just he's just that type of person that it lights his ego, but in a good way, in a healthy way, where it's like, you kinda, like, butter him up a little bit, to try to get some of that extra info. I thought that was kind of interesting that, she took that approach.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I'll share my screen here, and
And
again. Oh,
oh, I,
oh,
I
go
I'm
ahead.
I'm so sorry. The because I just thought of it. I literally just thought of it when you mentioned and one of the questions or I think it was Iger that said during the earnings call, or the other gentleman, was seeing the decline of people staying at on property in international resorts, because we've talked about it at Disneyland,
Yes.
how that, and again I reference Bricky because he did a report card on DCA. I think it's on his second channel, Bricky Vlogs, and it kind of ties into what was said this morning, because Disneyland, unfortunately, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing, but unfortunately, the way the Walt Disney Company sees it, the Disneyland Resort has become a locals park, and that's not what they want. They
Correct.
they want they want a tourist resort, and that's why they refuse to let go of the reservation system. That's why they refuse, or that's why prices are going up for Magic Keys. That's why prices are going up for food, merch, tickets, all this other stuff, experiences. And we're seeing this across the board. But then when you look at it from an outside coming in, they're trying to grab that market of making the Disneyland Resort an actual resort and not a locals park. And that's I kind of feel what the Walt Disney Company is pivoting to, because when you look at the Walt Disney World Resort, they don't worry about that problem. They don't have that problem. Out
Mhm.
here, we have that problem because so many of us locals, with a Magic Key, and I think you've said it, and OG has said it many times, is that we'll go there because we have a Magic Key, and a good 80% of the time, we're just going there to kind of vibe out and hang out and whatnot. And that's not what the Walt Disney Company really wants. They're seeking the family of four or even the couple to go in there, have a great time, obviously, but buy merch, buy food, basically like Jason Hill said early on, play an investor in the park.
And here's the thing, even when I was a traveler, when I was living over in PA, and I
Sure.
would come over here to Disneyland, opposite to Walt Disney World, I never really spent a whole lot, even as a visitor. I spent about the same that I actually am now as a local.
Sure.
But now going to Walt Disney World, because staying in that bubble, and it's more of a resort city complex, it's a whole nother entirely different beast. And I think that's where Disney knows that even with people traveling to Disneyland, it's still not enough. They want to get people to stay on property. And I think that's the struggle, because you still have this right next door, you have the residential area, you have these businesses, and that's why I think in the long term with Disneyland Forward, I think Disney is going to want to have a monopoly when it comes to Anaheim. I
Absolutely.
think in the decades to come, they're going to slowly but surely start buying out these businesses, start buying out some of this residential area, and try to turn it more into again, it'll never be like Walt Disney World, not on that scope, but to the best that it can be to get people to go into that Disney bubble.
No, absolutely. And Remy D brought up a very interesting comment. He said, What did you guys think of Bricky thinking Dana is going to take it and not Josh?" Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, Remy, because again, I had him on Conductor Sunday live stream last night with Tommy and OG, and we dove into this subject towards the end because, man, he loves to talk and I love listening. So we went 4.25 hours during that live stream. But one of the things he said was the reason, from what I understand, the reason why he doesn't think Tomorrow is going to be the new CEO is because Tomorrow is already established as the parks guy and whatnot. If he moves to the new CEO spot, then whoever gets to replace him in the parks, first of all, we wouldn't even know or even begin to fathom who that might be. But on top of that, is the person that's going to replace Josh is the passion, the energy, the innovation, the creativity. Is it going to still be there with the new person that replaces Josh? And the problem is when you look at Dana Walden, if she leaves the company, there's other studios that are going to scoop her up. It's almost a given. And, as much as I like Tomorrow, and I know George likes chasing them down Main Street, I just don't know if, I don't know if he has the experience. Like Bob Iger was very technical during these earnings calls, because a lot of times I will listen to these earnings calls literally after they're happening. This is my first one being part of it with George during it's actually live. Is the mere fact that I don't think Josh has the knowledge enough to sit there and run all aspects of the company, because like Iger talked about during this morning when he was asked, AI is part of this. Then you have the streaming platforms with the ESPN. You have all these movies coming out on the studio side. You have this, you have that. For his experience being a parks guy, I just don't know if he has enough knowledge to grasp all aspects of the company.
I do see your point, and I do get the concern, but also at the same time, look at the opposite end of the spectrum. I really don't know if Dana Walden has the chops to run the parks. I
Well,
don't know if really Dana Walden has the chops to get out and speak to the people the
sure.
way Josh can. So that's why, again, it all falls down to put the business and the creative together. And to me, I wonder if that's their delay. I wonder if they're that's it's no, maybe not necessarily them deciding on who becomes CEO, but
Sure.
how they want to tackle it. Are they going to do a dual CEO role? Are they going to bring back the presidential role? Maybe this is what they're really voting on. So that's very interesting. Just a couple pointers because people in the chat are having some really good comments. John Make It Rain says, gotta drop it in half to compete with all of the hotels surrounding the parks. That's a very good point because if they are going to add more hotels to put people in the Disney bubble, the one thing that Disneyland does that hurts them, I think, opposite of Walt Disney World, is they don't have value resorts.
No, they
That
don't.
people don't
Because when you look at it, obviously out of all the hotels that are on property, the Grand California is ridiculous. It's beautiful inside. Do not get me wrong, but to sit there and justify paying $800 a night, I can't justify that. Or you look at the Pixar Place Hotel, that's still $400 a night. Or you look at one of the Disneyland Towers, that's still around $400 a night. When you could literally be, walking distance on what George likes to call the walking pass right outside the resort and pay a fraction of that and still enjoy the Disney magic, but save money at the same time. And that's what people really try to look at because when you have a company, and I'm not saying Universal's not guilty of this either, is when you start pitching, oh, look at us, oh, all of our hotels are wonderful, the aesthetic, the atmosphere is great, but you're going to pay 2 arms and a leg for it. It's like, well, why am I going to do that when I could just walk 5 minutes and be at a decent, if not a nice hotel as well, save a fraction of the price and still enjoy Disney, but at a fraction of what I would have paid to stay on property in the bubble.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got Mr. Bryant in the house. Hey guys, I think there was a hint for co-CEO. The last question he said in the future, both the entertainment and experience can compete with each other to be the main driver. Thoughts? Yeah, see, kind of going back where I think Disney is just that like one in a million companies that because there's so many different outlets to the company that uh again it was founded on Walt and Roy.
Yeah.
You had the business and the creative. Eisner and Wells, you had the business and the creative. So people can't say that it doesn't work. The formula was founded from the very beginning.
Yeah. No, 100%.
With the company. So that's a good observation, Brian, and good looking out on that one.
I like it.
Alexander Wilson says all the betting markets have Josh as a 90% favorite to be CEO.
So, go ahead.
Also, Puck reported that they would pay Dana a lot of money to stay.
More than likely, like I said, if she left the Walt Disney Company, any studio, Comcast, Warner Brothers, Netflix, Paramount, they would scoop her up. I'm telling you, that is vital. So I do believe that, Alexander. Now, to your first question, again, it's something why, because we were all, not all of us, but a good portion of us on this platform and on the subject matter, we all thought, okay, they're going to announce, but Iger's going to say something about who the CEO might be because there was all these articles in the last couple of days saying, oh, well, they might say some during the earnings call. It's going to be announced sometime this week because as of this recording, it's this week. So we thought, okay, this is what it is. But George makes an excellent point, and Iger makes a great point too. When you look at the company's future or any company's future, especially when it comes to something like this, you can't just think one-sided. You have to think both-sided. You have to think what's best for the company on both sides. And that, like George said, the business and the creative side, you can't have one succeeding and one failing. And that's something that I think that's why the board is going back and really discussing and voting and all that. Because if they were 100% confident that the new CEO can stand on their 2 feet and not have any doubts, and Iger sounds like that, but it's not just Iger's decision as well. It's also how the board feels about it, and you know that's something. That's why I think we're seeing a vote, even though they probably, like George says, they probably already know who it is. There might be new concerns that have been raised because we all know, the Walt Disney Company, all these theme parks, Universal, Comcast, I could go on and on and on. When we put content out there, they watch it. They watch these things, and it wouldn't surprise me. Um, it wouldn't surprise me if they're just trying to double verify, because once it's out there, once the new CEO is named, I'm telling you, it's going to break the internet in a good way. But then all these articles and all these memes and all these, people on every single type of subject that gets reported in social media and YouTube are going to come out of the woodworks and try to discredit or maybe prop up the new CEO. Who knows? But again, they're trying to fact check before they make that announcement, and I can't blame them for that. From a business standpoint, that's going to better positively drive the Walt Disney Company in the future.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring Alexander Wilson's comment up because I do want to address this because I do think this is interesting. I'm not going to make this obviously like into a full political conversation, but I think this is an interesting point. So I hate that I have to say this, but Dana is a close friend to Kamala Harris. And if she was selected, the White House would come after the company. I wouldn't be surprised if that plays into this. The way that high tensions are between both sides of the political party is in today's time, and how social media and and things like that get into the mix with that. I can kind of see that as well. I don't think to start off Disney with a new CEO with that kind of leverage. Now, I'm not saying that Dana is a bad person, and I'm not saying that she's a bad person for being friends with Kamala Harris. It's just depending on who is in the White House can play a big part. And that's the one thing that I actually like that quality of Josh D'Amaro is I can honestly say I don't know what his political stance is.
Yeah.
No one knows. He doesn't really go by it. Now, would that change if he becomes CEO? Because essentially, when you're running a big company like that, sometimes you have to play ball on the political side. I'm not sure. Or he may just kind of keep that to himself, where Dana Walden, everyone kind of knows her political stance. And is Disney going to put out that risk? I actually have that same concern and question.
Again, because I want to get to the numbers as well, but to say my 2 cents of it is, and we talked about it again with Bricky, and again, he doesn't like getting into politics either. I don't blame him because it's a very sore and touchy subject. But to kind of put my 2 cents in this is the Walt Disney Company has had history in the last 10. I'm gonna throw an umbrella on this. The last 15 years, kind of dipping in and out of the political spectrum. And again, I don't think that is a great situation. I do not, because when you have a company that was literally started by a man who came to Southern California, built a studio, built just a magical place on earth, that he came over here with no money, and he really had to make things work. He had to improvise, he had to do all this stuff. And then, 70 years later, we have CEOs, we have people within the company are arguing with political officials on social media and going at it. Again, I kind of feel that Walt would be turning in his grave listening to this crap. So, personally, for me, it's just, I think the Disney company needs to focus on what the Disney company is known for.
Mhm.
Creativity, the magic, entertainment, and leave it there.
And I think honestly, the more that they get intertwined in the politics is what kind of drove the company into the soil in 2020 on top
Yes.
of COVID. And that's where Iger had to come back because it was just a huge mess.
Yeah. 100%.
Because Chapek was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He was listening to his PR team, and then he was going by his gut instinct. So no matter which way he was going, so when you put yourself in that position, it's kind of a no-win situation to get out of it on either side of the spectrum.
No, 100%.
And then one last statement from Alexander Wilson, and then I'm going to bring up the numbers.
Sure.
Also, a proxy statement came out in December that the next CEO will be announced at the March shareholder meeting.
So we kind of touched upon this, Alexander, towards the beginning, right after the earnings call, and one of the things that I think Disney's going to do, if possible, and George, I give all the credit to you because you actually brought this up, was I think they're going to make the announcement before that shareholders meeting in March, and that's literally the day after we come back from our Orlando trip. And I think the new CEO will be announced before then, so that way when that shareholders meeting comes up, I think it could go multiple ways, but the two likely ways I see it happening is you're going to have Iger and you're going to have the next CEO taking questions from investors and whatnot. Or like George mentioned, the new CEO is just going to take over and Iger's just going to kind of just listen in the background. So I think the next announcement for the next CEO is going to happen before then. So that way they can prepare for the shareholders meeting.
Yeah, I agree. And Bryant says the stock is tanking.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what is the numbers? I actually didn't get to look at it since it ended.
So actually, okay, Mr. Bryan, thank you for bringing this up because I actually looked at literally right when it started. It was at $112. It went down $6.
Ooh.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. I have seen a pattern with that. I don't know why. For some reason, I've always seen the numbers drop right after the earnings call. I don't know why.
Yeah.
No matter how good the revenue and the numbers come in, for some reason it always drops for like a couple days and then all of a sudden it shoots back up.
Yeah.
I don't know like what that is or what the contingency is on Wall Street with that. I have no idea.
100%.
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen, and again, this is compliments to Jack from DSNY Newscast. As I said, I just love his format of how he breaks things down. Jason Hill says the market probably wanted them to make the CEO. Oh, that's very interesting. Maybe that's what everyone was kind of like waiting on. And then Disney's like, we'll take a little bit of the hit.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'm just going to go one by one here. So the Walt Disney Company Q1 2026 financial results, gross revenue $25.9 billion. It's a 5% increase year over year change. Now the operating income was at $4.6 billion, and it was minus 9% year over year change. So there was a dip in the operating income. Um, but I mean, obviously it gives and takes.
Yeah. No, 100%.
The experience division, the gross revenue $10 billion, and as I said earlier, that is a record-breaking historic number. Honestly, for the experiences, it never reached that feat before. It's up 6% year over year change, and then the operating income $3.3 billion, again 6% up year over year change. And then on the entertainment side, 11.6 billion, it's up 7% year over year change. And then the operating income 1.1 billion. This is where I guess it kind of took a little bit more of a hit, down 35% year over year change. And that's for the entertainment. And then for sports, 4.9 billion, it's up 1% year over year change. And then the operating income 191 million, it's down 23% year over year change.
So if you go back to the entertainment, I want to ask you because we saw that Iger and the Walt Disney Company
Mhm.
finally made the final payments to acquire the full rights and the full license for Hulu,
Mhm.
and it's going to close that app and incorporate the content from that to Disney Plus. Could this be could this be a contributing factor? And then on top of that, with what we're seeing at Lucasfilm, with all the turmoil that's going on there, and changes, could that play a role? Because the thing is, and I've said it time and time again on many live streams, I said, when you look at the movies that have come out for the Disney company in 2025, Avatar, even though it did phenomenal, right off the gate, it didn't do the numbers that they were hoping, but it still did extremely well, but it didn't hit that benchmark. And then you had movies like Tron, Fantastic Four, you had the live action Snow White. It didn't hit and it tanked. So I wonder if this 35% negative has a role to play in all those different subjects.
I think so. I think there's many different facets, that make the outcome, for the operating income to be, under, the 35%. I do know Iger mentioned multiple times throughout the earnings call of with Zootopia and Fire and Ash, being, billion-dollar films, which
Sure.
they are, and they've reached incredible feat and achievements. But is 2 films out of the whole year enough?
No.
I think there's more issues going on. I mean, again, it's great that those 2 movies, hit, but I think Disney was at a point where it used to be hit after hit after hit, where anything that Disney produced, it made box office gold. Anything that Pixar made, box office gold. Anything that Marvel made, box office gold. Lucasfilm, box office gold. Like it was like you just they just kept on going. They were a powerhouse. So as good as Zootopia 2 and uh Fire and Ash did, I still don't think it's enough. And especially now with, people still not going to the theaters and everything, I just think it just all plays together as to why the entertainment is still like, losing that operating income.
Well, see, again, and I've said it also many times that COVID really kind of changed the game, not just for the movie industry, but also the parks as well. But going back to the media side or the entertainment side of this is people's mindset from 2020 and onward you know, that's why, and Disney is not the only one. Okay, there's other or other studios that also suffer this as well. But people, you can't argue the fact that most movies, and I'm saying most movies because not all of them, but most movies, it's highly convenient to sit there. I have my TV right here. Obviously, you guys can see my bed right here over my shoulder. How convenient is it? I can order Uber Eats, and I could literally sit there and watch Tron Ares from the convenience of my own bedroom. I don't have to travel anywhere. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to pay the insane prices that the movie theaters charge for a popcorn or a soda. I could just be in my comfort in my own home. I could play, I could pause, I could rewind. Because usually when you get a movie and you rent it, basically, you temporarily own that license for that movie to watch it. It's like that's why it's so crucial going forward that the movie industry is just not what it was before 2020. And even before 2020, we kind of saw a dip in the movie theater industry. um that's why it's so crucial going forward that the Walt Disney Company and other companies, other studios, really focus on trying to really put the energy, the effort, the creativity, the finances, all the stuff that come into play when you start a production to have a good script. All these things come into play because just again, you're trying to win people over to say, hey, this is a movie that I want to go see in the theater, not that, oh, I want to go lay in my bed right here, order Uber Eats, and I will watch it, but I'll pause it, maybe I'll stop it halfway through, go do some stuff, maybe I'll come back to it a different day. You have to be, as a company, you want to attention grab people, and that's something that I kind of see going forward. So it's just I don't know. I don't know, and I agree with you, George. Out of all the movies that came out in 2025, you make a great argument. Does Avatar, Fire and Ash, and Zootopia 2, two movies that hit over $1 billion, does it cover all the other movies that tanked? And it doesn't.
Exactly. And actually, I want to get because a few people had put that in there, but Alexander Wilson says the Fubo acquisition was in the last quarter and it had significant expenses that took on the entertainment operation income for the last quarter. And then let's see. Also, in their earnings report, it said that the streaming licensing content cost went up 3%. That also negatively impacted the entertainment segment. So yeah, so there's a lot of like extra things like behind the scenes that play into factor. But I want to bring up because John Make It Rain mentioned it. Elio, Strange World, Lightyear, the live action Snow White. So just all those movies like together, yeah, you're gonna put it into prospect against Fire and Ash and Zootopia 2. And then Vegas Disney RTV, welcome in. And they said Tron 2 caused a lot of damage too.
Yeah,
So
it did. It did. And that's part of the problem that we see. And again, that's why I stated that going forward, the company and all companies need to focus on this. That's in this industry, that they really need to make content something that people can still enjoy and people can still relate to. Because again, Vegas Disney RTV made a great point. Tron 2, Tron Ares really did not do what they thought. Same thing with Fantastic Four, really didn't do what they thought. And again, when Bob Iger talks about, oh, Avengers Doomsday, we're hyping it up and everyone's hyping it up. He's hyping it up. Kevin Feige's going out there on stage hyping it up. And I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic thing. But when you look at the history of doing something like that, we all did it for Epic Universe before it opened. Not to go off subject, but we all of us hyped up Epic Universe, and then when we got in there, believe me, it was still fantastic from the pictures and videos that I've seen. And again, thanks to George, he's making it happen where I'm going to be out there in March for my first time. But was the hype really there when people eventually went into that park, or did people have their doubts when they said, oh, well, when the weather's bad, half the park shut down, or there's not enough shade, or there's not enough restaurants, or there's this, or there's that. Again, when you have Iger saying, oh yeah, well, it's going to be a fantastic year with Doomsday as a leading Trojan horse, is Doomsday really going to be what Iger wants it to be and Kevin Feige? Because as far as we know, yeah, it's going to be freaking amazing, but we can only speculate until it comes out. That's why overhyping things is, I don't know, it could be cancerous. It could be dangerous to do so.
Yeah, I mean, because it is a risk. Excuse me, it is a risk factor that you can hype something and it become a total dud. Now, is that going to be for Doomsday? More so not. This movie is going to, honestly, Doomsday is probably going to be the biggest movie in 2026, and it's going to be actually one of the last movies to be in 2026. It's on the back end. It's going to be premiering in December.
Sure.
But yeah, I see your point where if you're gonna hype something up, you're gonna have to kind of have it back up what you're preaching, so to speak.
No.
So Brian says most movies wouldn't make sense to even make now if it was just theatrical. It has to be the other stuff, other like streaming and merch, that helps make money. That's very true. And then Alexander Wilson says Fantastic Four made money. It only had $180 million budget. And I do agree with you, Alexander. It did make money. It did. But it didn't make the money that Disney was anticipating. And I think, to what Conductor was saying about hyping things up with Doomsday, and you have to be careful with it, they already had the Fantastic Four characters in Tomorrowland before the movie even came out. That's how Disney was so confident that the Fantastic Four was going to make major numbers. And here's the thing, I was rooting for it. I really was. I actually loved the movie. I really did. I want to see a sequel of it. I don't want to just see them be a part of Doomsday or Secret Wars. I want to see a Fantastic Four sequel. And then we have Hidden Geek Village. Welcome in. But the second that the movie didn't do the numbers that it did, Disney pulled Fantastic Four out of Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
And that's very detrimental too. And this is where we need both, because of the studio and the parks, because without this entertainment, we don't have this.
Well, see, that's interesting, and not to go off subject again, but Hen Geek Village, I want to give all the love and support. He was on the live stream last night with Hey Bricky. He sent another amazing, awesome super chat to Hey Bricky. So thank you for joining, and thank you for always being a constant supporter of Theme Park Conductor and Hollow Gelato. But no, you're absolutely right. And that's how the company has structured this, where you have movies. And again, that's what we've kind of been talking about, and we talked about it last night with the third gate and all that. Is, does Disney continue to sit there and IP base everything in the parks, or do they take a page from the old book and kind of split it half and half, where you could still have IP based attractions and entertainment areas in the park, but you also go back to original concept that has no IP tied to it.
And that could be a power move by the next CEO,
Yeah.
because that was really Iger's decision. He
Yes.
was the one that said, after Expedition Everest, there will be no more non-IP attractions in the parks. It's going to be heavy IP, which, not saying that that would be a bad thing,
No.
but you shouldn't always have to rely on that, because if Disney is solely going to put the IPs in the parks that do major box office numbers, they're kind of setting themselves up for failure, because then you would have to have every single movie be a hit in
Yeah.
order to utilize that IP. And honestly, that's not fair,
No, it's
because
not.
just because a movie doesn't do so well at the box office doesn't mean it's not a great movie. It's not a great story. It doesn't have great characters. And I think Disney is selling themselves short by doing that.
Yeah.
So we have Alan 0101, welcome in. And then, of course, we got Rudio, welcome in as well. John, Make It Rain. I think the Spider-Man movie comes out this year. It does, but it's under Sony. So
Yeah.
even though I don't know if Disney gets any kind of royalties on that, but as far as like the company goes, the money usually goes towards the studio that produces it. So that's all pretty much Sony.
Yeah.
And then Alexander Wilson says, the Fantastic Four was never a big brand. The Fox movies didn't finish the top 10 on their respective releases. X-Men is a way bigger brand. And to your point, Alexander, I think that's why after the Avenger movies, that's the route Marvel needs to go for their next phase. They need to lean on X-Men. And I'd still even say lean on Fantastic Four. I still think that it can, do very well. But I mean, X-Men is just, I think if they move that, needle. And then of course, Marvel is considering that depending on how well Doomsday does, they may break Secret Wars into 2 parts, which we all kind of know Doomsday is going to do well. So it's pretty much a guarantee Secret Wars will be a part 1 and part 2.
No, 100%. And again, going back to your previous statement, George, about, having a box office gold to justify incorporating that IP into the parks, it is unfair. It totally is unfair, because again, like I stated right after the earnings call and talking about Tomorrowland and what the new CEO's judgment is going to be, because I use Tomorrowland a lot because it's a great reference point, is again, when you watch the Fantastic Four, even though it might not have been the strongest IP, it might have not done the numbers in the box office, there was so many references, and I mean so many references that tie into Tomorrowland and what Walt Disney himself was imagining when Tomorrowland was getting built, and his innovation to think about the future and the world of tomorrow instead of the world of yesterday. So again, I kind of feel that the next CEO, whoever that might be, needs to really kind of take a look at that, because like when George mentioned about Iger publicly stating that Expedition Everest is going to be the last non-IP base attraction, but then you're kind of at a stalemate, because
in a way they're handicapping themselves in that sense.
Yeah.
They're handicapping themselves in both directions. They're stopping themselves from doing non-IP creative projects.
Yes.
And if a movie IP doesn't do so well, it's left at the doorstep.
Yeah.
They don't move anywhere near it. And here's the thing. This is what Disney has to consider. Pirates of the Caribbean was a non-IP driven attraction.
Yes.
It made full circle that they made a movie franchise out of it that made millions and billions of dollars. And then it made full circle where the ride influenced the films, and then the films influenced the ride.
100%.
So just because you make an original non-IP attraction, who's to say down the road you can have that lightning in a bottle again and do exactly what they did with Pirates?
100%. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Can you slide over to the experiences tab, because I brought this to your attention before we went live.
Yeah, so we're there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were still on the entertainment.
No, you're good.
Okay, so when you look at these numbers for the experiences, and I threw it your direction, was, do you think, again, do you think that Epic Universe at all played any type of role in these numbers? Because literally, I think again, it was either the day we did the 11-hour live stream, and again, that was absolutely historical and freaking amazing, or it was the day before that Universal Comcast dropped their numbers, and they throughout that report they were highlighting how successful Epic Universe was, and kind of being the new guy in the courtyard, saying, "Oh, look at, we're not even at full capacity, and it grows profit for us." Do you think these numbers had anything to do with Epic and driving crowds to the Orlando market? Not just to see Epic Universe, not to sit there and go see Islands of Adventure and all that, but also visit Walt Disney World, because it gave people, excitement to go see Epic, and they're like, okay, well, we're already down there. Let's go. Let's go see Walt Disney World, the Magic Kingdom. Let's go visit Animal Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios. Let's kind of take the best of both worlds and do both resorts. Do you think these numbers had anything to do with that?
I mean, it's a possibility. I think a lot of people can think, oh, Disney and Universal kind of going head to head. They're going to, one's going to take over the other and reign supreme. But in a way, they both kind of help each other without even trying. Look what we're doing when we go down to March. We're going to both. Even though we're going to be staying on Disney property the whole entire time, we're still going to be leaving Disney to go over to Universal.
Yeah.
So I'm for sure it went the other way around, that when people were staying on Universal property to go see Epic and see the what is it, the Terra Nova and Stella Luna hotels, or the Grand Helios, that they're thinking, okay, we're in Florida, we're visiting Universal, let's hop over to Walt Disney World, let's do maybe a day at Epcot or Magic Kingdom or something. So yeah, so I think as crowds began to draw in for the summer, for Epic, I'm for sure that it still played a part for Disney to get some of that, a piece of the pie.
100%. Literally.
So Rudio says, I think their DTC services are not doing as well. There's so many people I know who canceled their Disney Plus, Hulu, or ESPN Plus this year because of the lack of content. And then Alexander Wilson says, in the reports, the DTC profits went up quarter over quarter. The Disney cruises had a huge positive impact on the experiences segment from their earnings report. Those cruises are very important to Disney. That's a very good statement as well, Alexander, because with the experiences, it's not just the parks, it's also including the cruises.
Yeah.
So, the more that people do go on Disney cruises, that gets added into the revenue for experiences. And I think that's why Disney wants to capitalize and expand the fleet. That's why, literally we're going to have 13 Disney cruise ships by 2031. So yeah, that's a very good point.
No, and an excellent point as well. Let me. How can I put this? Okay, so going on that with the Disney Cruise Line. How can I put this? You know, do you think it's justified to sit there and obviously, like you said, we're going to have eventually 13 ships to the fleet.
Mhm.
And do you think that has something to do with, how can I put it? Do you think that has something to do with the international parks and including what's going to be this new Disney park that's going to be something we've never seen before coming out of Abu Dhabi? Do you think that has something to do with, how can I put this? Do you think it has something to do with Disney kind of playing, and I like to call them the real estate agents of the company world, licensing out their IPs to these international theme park company um, uh, investors to build parks out there, build attractions, build this just experiences and pay for all the R&D, but in the meantime Disney themselves actually really benefit from it because that international theme park attractions company that's building all this, paying for the R&D, they're paying Disney for the IP of what they're building, and on top of that they're basically giving all the R&D to Disney for free because that company paid for all the R&D, and
Mhm.
um that's a crucial step forward to the future of the domestic parks and even Disneyland Paris itself, because now that Disney does own Disneyland Paris, so it's not part of this equation. Um, do you think that has a major role in it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think not even just for the parks, but for the cruise line as well. I mean, OLC, the Oriental Land Company, who runs Tokyo Disney, that they get it licensed out by Disney. They wanted their very own Disney cruise ship, and they're getting it, and they're paying for it. So, and OLC doesn't cheap out on anything that they want.
No.
So when we see Tokyo Disneyland and Tokyo Disney Sea, I could imagine what Japan's cruise ship is going to look like.
Oh, it's going to
Because
look absolutely breathtaking.
they're going to be paying for it. And then there were talks that after that, OLC may want a second ship in Japan. So
Wow.
they're already even consider that. So they may want two ships. And then once they build the Abu Dhabi park, Abu Dhabi might get in on it after the success of Abu Dhabi Disneyland, if that's what they decide to call it, and say, "Hey, we want our own cruise ship or two," And you have to think Disney Cruise Line is still a baby in that industry.
Yes.
Like, we're going to get 13 ships, and that's a lot, compared to what we started out with. But you look at Carnival, and you look at Norwegian, and you look at Royal Caribbean, they've had 20, 25 plus cruise ships throughout, their time. So Disney is still young, so they're just going to want to keep on expanding. And then there's going to be 4 more cruise ships, intertwined with all that, which I'm for sure we'll know what the latest one's going to be at D23, because it's supposed to actually go online in 2027. They're actually building it right now in Meyerwerf, Germany. It's actually being constructed. We just don't know the name of it yet. So by the time summer 2026 comes, we should know what the name of it is. And then Brian did confirm the Disney Adventure is coming online soon, which actually it's going to be docking here in LA pretty soon, before it heads over to Singapore, because their maiden voyage is on March 10th. I actually was very tempted that if we weren't going to Florida, like I was tempted to do the maiden voyage on the adventure. It was only $2,200.
That's not bad.
You know, for to do now, mind you, it's not going to make any stops. It basically just kind of goes in a circle and everything.
Sure.
But hey, I'm in Singapore on a Disney cruise ship. I mean, come on, like. But
Oh, yeah.
eventually, I do want to do that. I do
Oh,
want to
yeah.
experience the adventure. It's unfortunate that we won't be able to see it docked because it's media only invite. But in time, all in good time.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And then for the main voyage, I would reference everybody. And I mean everybody. And I'm sure me and George will do a video breakdown of his experience. But Tom Corliss from WDWNT will be on that grand opening main voyage for the Disney Adventure. So definitely look forward to his content, his coverage. And then, like I said, once the video is out, I'm going to collaborate with George and we will do a reaction to that because I really want to break this down. Because when you look at the Disney Adventure, it wasn't built by Disney. They took it over because they bought the ship when it was cheap from Chapek, who actually bought it. And it was only like halfway done. So Disney had to kind of fill in the gaps in between. So this ship is definitely unique compared to all the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's architecture, it's design. The mainframe was already built.
Yeah.
So basically, Disney just had to fill in the gaps. So it has the similarities of a Disney cruise ship, but a lot of differences, which that's good. That's a good thing.
Sure.
I do eventually would love to do a maiden voyage. For as many Disney cruises as I've been on, I have not done a maiden voyage on a cruise ship. So
wow.
I didn't get to do the Treasure. I didn't get to do the Destiny. Obviously, the Adventure. I didn't get to do the Wish. But one of the 4 new ships that are coming online, I would love to really like pay attention to see when the maiden voyage is and where it's going to be, because one of those ships I would like to do a maiden
100%.
voyage. Because Disney kind of goes all out and they give you a lot of free stuff on those maiden voyages.
Yeah.
Each night you just go into your stateroom and there's something new on laying on your bed.
Oh man, I love that.
And then we got Cody Anderson in the house. Welcome in. An adults cruise centered ship with Bob's Burgers, Simpsons, Family Guy would print money. You know what? I'll say this. Nothing really is far-fetched anymore because when you look at the Disney Destiny cruise ship, it's all it's centered around heroes and villains, but there's a lot of Marvel presence. They have Spider-Man and the Spider-Bots on the back of the ship. You know, Black Panther is the center marquee statue in the lobby atrium. So that's something that's a little bit out of Disney's element, but that's a good thing because again, it's different. You don't want every ship to be the same.
Yeah, you don't, because you want different ships to provide different storytelling.
Yes, absolutely. And John Make It Rain asked, does the earnings say anything about 20th Century Fox's performance?
I don't remember if it did. I don't think it did. Did it, George?
I don't recall seeing or hearing anything.
I don't think so. I think it was really that reporter that asked a question about, you know, Bob, when you took over from Eisner, you basically, like George likes to call it, you made moves. You invested in and bought Lucasfilm. You bought 21st Century Fox. You bought this. You put your stamp right from the beginning. And obviously Iger responded to that, and he was very like a kid in the candy store. He ate that up, like George likes to call it. So that's not a bad thing, but I don't think he really broke down on the details of that 21st Century Fox acquisition. But it was mentioned as part of Iger's succession plan from taking the company or becoming the new CEO after Eisner. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And we have Mademoiselle in the house. Good morning. Always good to see you. And she asked, did they announce the new CEO? No, they have not announced the new CEO like we thought or we wish that they would have. But our prediction is they're either going to do it prior to the shareholders meeting on March 18th or actually on March 18th. But I don't think they're going to wait that long. I
no,
think
I know.
they're gonna have it ready for the shareholders meeting.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And Brian says, "What do you think when people say Josh has just nickel and dimed people in the parks now? If he's CEO, it will be worse."
I okay.
I really honestly think no matter who gets in,
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, all these people are corporate.
Oh yeah, their business. They're thinking about the business, not they're like George says. It's a perfect term. They're corporate people. They're thinking about the profitability, not the other way around. And and John actually brought up a good point. It was Iger's or it wasn't just Iger. I can assure you of that. I can assure you it wasn't just he played a role in it, but I don't think it was just Iger. And what
Even
I
oh,
oh go
sorry,
ahead.
really quick. Even Walt's brother Roy was business. He
Yes.
was constantly on Walt's tail. How much money are we spending? How are we getting this money? The bank wants to know what we're doing with these. So Walt was like that one in a million that money was no expense to him. He just wanted to create something great. And unfortunately, there's only one Walt Disney. And even though he's the founder of this company, it was through his risk and imagination this all was possible. But
Sure.
moving forward, you will never find another replicated Walt Disney, no
No.
matter who is running his company.
No, absolutely not. You will not find that. And going back to what I was stating was it wasn't just Iger's decision. When you look at it, you know Iger's the face of the company, but you have to remember there's a board that also plays a role, and they are all investors from J. Morgan to some of the people we heard on the earnings call. They have presence on that board, and they're all investors. So it's not just coming from the CEO. It's not just coming from one person. There are multiple people. Iger, the board, Damaro probably played a role in it because you have to think about. And George makes an excellent point. Roy was a business guy. Walt did not want to sit there and think about money. He just wanted to focus on building and uh, building a magical place that everybody that visits would enjoy, would in love, or would love. That was his mindset. And like George said, you'll never find another Walt Disney. Never. That's just not the time and era that we are in. So again, whether it's Damaro who becomes the CEO, Dana Walden that becomes the CEO, or a third person that we're not even thinking of becomes the CEO, you will continue. I can almost be certain of it. You will continue to see prices go up. That's just a given because they, at corporate, it's all about how can we still provide the magic, but at the same time keep the company afloat. And when you see projects, again, I'm going to dip into the studio side here. When you have movies like, again, Tron Ares, Fantastic Four, live remake of Snow White, when you have movies like that and that tank, but so much financial money was involved on producing that, then the company says, okay, well, we had 3 movies that just tanked, and now we're kind of in the hole here. how can we balance it out where we can regain some of that? And I don't mean to be, crucial or negative, but that's how corporate America works. I see it all the time working where I work at Costco and other companies I've worked for, like, Sam's Club, which is part of Walmart. You had J.C. Penney's I worked at when I was younger, and their mindset is, again, consumer, so providing products, items, essentials for the everyday consumer, but at the same time, we also have to think about, okay, what what can we charge for these items? How are certain items doing compared to others? I see it all day long at Costco. We could get a new item in, and we'll get several pallets of it to kind of, you know, test the waters, and it might be a banger. And we might have the item for 6 months, or you have an item that comes in, we get several pallets of it. It might last a couple weeks, and then everyone's all like, I saw this on viral TikTok and I came in to buy it. Where is it? Because I had a member that other day asked me that question when I was on the register. And I said, well, again, there are times that companies will come in, they will rent. Basically, the Costco warehouses are basically like a rental space, and these companies that make these products, they're renting spaces in our warehouses to showcase their items. But if their items aren't doing what the numbers that both Costco corporate agreed upon when they made the deal, then you don't see it again. And it's like the same thing with the Walt Disney Company. Again, great article from the New York Times when it was stated that Imagineers came up with another probably amazing banger plan to address the issues that Tomorrowland has, spending $600 million, and it was denied because the board, who, again, I could go on and say that the board, I still kind of thinks has too much power, but that's besides the point. They declined it because they said there's no financial gain at this point to add more revenue, to add to increase and attendance until all the projects at DCA are completed. Our goal is to create more revenue, create more to have a bigger footprint, to have more crowds come in, and addressing a land that has already been there for decades is not beneficial to us at this current time. So it kind of ties in. So again, I could go on.
Yes. Tell us how you really feel.
Exactly.
So Vegas Disney RTV says Wall Street Journal said stocks fell because of decline in international tourism in a new article. And adding on to that, Alexander Wilson says from the Wall Street Journal, Josh's big pitch was incorporating more gaming into the company thoughts. And I'm glad you brought that up, Alexander, because I forgot to mention that when Conductor, you were mentioning if Josh would be the best pick when dealing like with AI and the studio side and the entertainment. Well, he has a big hand in the gaming. And I think when it comes to with the AI and everything, I think that's going to be all kind of interwebbed together. So I think just the fact that Josh is behind all the gaming acquisitions and everything, I think even that's a big move in itself before even knowing if he's going to become CEO.
No, 100%. 100%. And that's something that I kind of feel it, that could be the future of the Disney parks. And I'm fine with that. But the one thing that I hope the company doesn't lose value on is still kind of still kind of paying homage and tying in the original concept of what Disneyland was going to be. And Walt, one of Walt's phrases is, "Disneyland is your home. Disneyland will never be finished." And I love that statement. I love that from a man that literally came from nothing, came to California with nothing, and create a place that's just beyond magical. I'm totally fine with that. But the one thing that scares me about Josh is, him being, the parks guy and all that, which is fine, and tying into the gaming aspect, because like you said, he's really big in the gaming, and I do agree it's going to play a big role in the AI that the Disney company is investing into. But on the other hand, is that something that we all want? Do we really want, you know, a lot of gaming to be incorporated into the parks? Because we say it all the time, with the IP based things, we're slowly, if not at a rapid pace, losing original concept that was just it was just genius, and we're throwing in these IPs, which is not a bad thing either, but we're losing the original concept of what Walt Disney himself envisioned.
I think when it comes to the gaming and incorporating it in the parks, I think it's more where it's more digital with like VR,
Sure.
AR kind of compatibility in your own home. I do what I don't want is that to take away from the actual physical aspect of the parks.
Oh,
You can
definitely.
still incorporate that within the gaming world because the gaming world is a multi-billion dollar uh uh corporation.
Sure.
So I mean, for Disney to have a piece of that, I think that's really good. Just don't take away the physical aspects of the parks. Have the best of both worlds.
And
To your concern, I'm not a huge gamer anymore. I used to be
neither
growing
am
up. So I really honestly the gaming aspect doesn't affect me, but I think it affects just the overall abundance of percentage of people who do play games because I feel like growing up as a kid in the 90s and the early 2000s, video games were more so for kids. We
Yes.
came home from school, we got our homework done. Our moms were like saying, get your stuff done, then you could play your video games and everything.
Sure.
Now in today's time, I feel like there's more adults that are playing video games than kids, or it's an equal percentage.
It is. And John made an interesting comment. He says, "Is the gaming something that parents are that the parents, the real
Real
customers want?"
customers want, yeah.
Because we've seen article, and I'm not saying Disney would and tomorrow would create gaming to the level of like a GTA type style game. I wouldn't say that, but it's something, and I want to touch upon this as well. Is that something that is relevant still to this day of gaming when you have, and I'm going to be honest with you, when you have 5-year-olds having a cell phone and going on social media, is gaming really what it once was, and is it still a good investment when you have social media, just taking over the minds of adults, taking over the minds of kids, teenagers, even seniors at this point? Does gaming really stand up to what it once was? And is it a really smart move for, if Josh is named the CEO, to invest in that?
As I
Or
said, it's not really personally my kind of investment, but I think for the majority, I think it is. I think for the long haul, I think it will do as long as it's done well and it's done tasteful. Because I do know when they dabbled in the games before with the Disney Infinity. Do you remember those?
I do.
I mean, it was huge. It was popular, and then all of a sudden, it sunk. They
Yeah.
started losing.
I think really, one of the games I grew up with, and I know you did too, George, and that had Disney inspiration, Disney characters in the game was the Final Fantasy games. After the Final Fantasy games came out and they stopped doing them, you didn't really see too much of Disney inspired video games. Like you did, but you didn't. So really, the Trojan horse was Final Fantasy, because I know you remember that, because that
Yes.
was a big thing back in the day. So I share my concerns on it. I really honestly do. When you have
Oh, I do too. I do too, because I mean, even when they were talking about like the Epic Games at D23, because that's the funny thing, they incorporated that as part of the Parks and Experience panel,
Sure.
because not only was the experience about the parks and the cruise line, but now it's also in the gaming world too.
For sure. No, for sure.
So we got Chris West in the house. The kids are playing Roblox, and Disney doesn't want anything to do with Roblox. And then we also have Hudson Thomas. Welcome in. I'm surprised the parks have sold a $5 to $10 app that can be played as a game while waiting in the queue.
Well, see, okay, this is interesting, Hudson, that you bring that up, because good friend of ours, Tommy Toon World. I love Tommy. I really do. And one of the things that is still relevant, and it's funny because it's like it's blown up in the sense that it's become more relevant, or just as relevant as it once was in the late 90s, early 2000s, when me and George were growing up as kids, was Pokemon. And when you look at it, people or kids or teenagers or even handful of adults, they go into the parks, especially Disney, and one of the things that's associated with Pokemon is Pokemon Go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on the phone. So, and that's an app. So, you're not far off that Disney would probably dabble in something like that. And maybe the AI has a role to play in that. And I would be very curious to see how that rolls out. But my concern with that, I'm not saying it's a bad idea, because it's not. The concern I have is, like George and I have talked about many times, and I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but we've talked about it many times, when it comes to making reservations, or it has something to do with the virtual queue system, or it has something to do with buying D23 tickets through the website, and they can't even handle that type of infrastructure on the IT side of things. How, if they can't get that under control, and the website crashes, the app crashes, it affects different services throughout the park, are they really ready to sit there and now have an app where you could buy it through the App Store or the Google Play Store, and have it on your phone and interact with the park through an app, and playing, games and all this? They kind of have something like that right now. You don't have to pay for it. It's called I want to say it's called like My Disney Experience or something. You could do quests throughout the park, and it's a free app. You don't have to pay for it. You just link your magic key with it. But I just don't feel like Disney is at a good point right now, where they can put that on the system grid, as I call it, and for it to work. I don't feel that they're there yet. Can they get there? Absolutely. I have all the positivity in the world they could get there. But my problem is they're not ready for it. And if you rush something like that, it's going to be a domino effect of bad things to come. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't.
Yeah, no, I don't either. But yeah, so like I just feel like with the quarterly earnings, I mean, I'm very satisfied with the numbers, to be honest with you. I know that there is still concern, there's still ups and downs, but that's normal, I think, with any company.
Sure.
And yeah, so I think honestly, moving forward, I think it's just going to keep going up as long as they don't throw any kind of surprise monkey wrenches, and they know how to handle things. And whoever the next CEO is, I am hoping, I am very much hoping that their PR team is much better to them, whether it's Dana or Josh or whoever it is, than they were to Chapek. Because the PR team, I'm sorry, they caused a lot of blunder that was unnecessary, that could have been avoided.
100%. And George, I know we didn't really talk about it, but I want to kind of dive into it just for a couple minutes. I don't know if you still have that chart on X still available, but I want to dive into the sports aspect of this because a lot of the earnings call this morning, Iger was really proud of the ESPN and how that's evolving, and the deals with the NFL and NFL Red Zone, and then the fact that they're gonna have exclusive rights for the Super Bowl. I think it's for this year, and we're looking at it, a negative 23%. And only a 1% year over year change from last year. What's your thought process when you see something like this on the sports end of things? Because we all know at one point or another, Disney has always been. It seems like they've always been into the sports world because at one point or another they own the an MLB team. They own the Angels at one point or another. So, I'll go ahead.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say, yeah, I think low key Disney has always been like interconnected with sports, and as you had mentioned, like with the Angels and the Anaheim Ducks. So I think, and honestly, when you look at sports, I mean, that is a multi-billion-dollar, again, other department. So for Disney to kind of dabble into that as well, I think it's very smart. And I
No.
think, it's gonna have time for it to adjust, but I think as time goes on with the revenue and everything, it will be very financially stable and fitting for the company, especially on streaming.
Absolutely. And Chris West and then Matthew Moore, but Chris West said even the WWE pay-per-views are on ESPN now instead of Peacock. So, moves are being made. So, again, like you said, it's a stable future for the Walt Disney Company, and I love that. I really do, because I kind of feel that if you have anchors in the ground, it's only going to stabilize the foundation of many different aspects of the company. So the worry and the concern kind of goes away a little bit less for the company execs, so they could focus on other areas that do need help. So I agree. I totally agree with that. And then, yeah, Matthew Murr, all the way from the UK, absolutely love this guy. He says, I think Disney getting into AI was unavoidable. And I agree. After kind of doing some research, hearing what what George has said, what Jared from Capture the Magic has said, so many others have said, AI, again, it's here. There's no saying, it's at its beginning stages. True, it is at its beginning stages, but at the same time, it's evolving so quickly, so fast, and we're seeing that. And I kind of feel that, with Iger and the company investing in that, it's only going to better give us investors, I call us investors, the better experience, at the end of the day. So I agree with Matthew Moore. They would have been stupid to not get, to not invest in the AI, because that's what other companies are doing. So why not jump on board? So I agree with that. And then we got Giant Peter Adventures in the house. Always
Yes,
good to
what's
see
up,
him.
Peter?
Matthew Muir also brings up another point. He says OG and Kiki and Luca and I have spoken at length about how steering it in a better direction may be the only way forward. George, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. And then John says they should have paid extra for Red Zone. Instead, they lost it to YouTube TV, and with it, they lost those subscribers too. Is that a concern? Is that why we saw Bob Iger talking about how he restructured deals with the NFL and AKA the Red Zone? Do you
Yeah,
kind
I think there's a lot of like with the red zone, I think there's a lot of red tape, no pun
Yeah.
intended, when it comes to that kind of stuff because there's so many different outlets now on how people utilize service and utilize content and streaming and everything. So I think one thing can help, but another thing can hurt in a sense.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then John also says Disney should look into purchasing Underdog as well as fixing their fantasy app. A lot of people that watch football play fantasy football and the ESPN fantasy app could use some improvement. And I totally agree. I think there is going to be improvement as we go forward, even with the new CEO. I think that's just the absolute case here. Now, I want to ask you because John made an interesting. I kind of took away from John's comment. This is another aspect that the Disney company is actually diving into. Is could we see, and again, I know it's something out of the realm here, but with what John was saying about Underdog, fantasy football, you know what he was talking about with the ESPN fantasy app. Do you think Disney is going to dabble in the sports betting?
Um,
Or is that a touchy subject? Because it could
that's
go.
yeah, that's kind of like borderline. I could see where the revenue would come in. I just don't know if Disney wants to go down that route.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That's why I'm curious about it. That's
Right. I guess if I had to think of it, I would say no. I don't think Disney would want to do with the betting and the gambling and everything.
sure.
Because I even think that's even why they don't even incorporate it on the cruise ships. You
Yeah.
know, all cruise ships, usually have casinos and stuff like
They
that.
do.
And Disney does not have those. So I think now again, could that change in time? Possibly. But in the direction of how they are now, if I had to guess, I would say no.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I was just curious about. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. And it's very interesting. It really is when you think about it, because that's why I kind of hesitated a little bit. I'm like, I had to really dig deep on that one.
Yeah. No, 100%. John, all you guys in the chat are absolutely amazing with these comments. I love it. John also said, but I think they offload. So that's something I want to ask you as well, because when we look at it, Disney has made attempts in the past to incorporate sport theme entertainment spaces in their parks. Perfect example. ESPN Zone in downtown Disney. You had the NBA experience in Disney Springs. You had that. Then you had what was it? You had, I'm trying to think from back in the day. You had all that aspect. Do you think in time, not right now, because obviously Iger's still going to be connected to the company until he officially leaves and he's not hiding in the background playing puppet master. Do you think it will be the agenda of the new CEO eventually to evaluate this a little bit more and possibly, like John is saying, offload it eventually and kind of just get away from that.
I think it depends on the numbers. I think if the numbers don't either, I don't even think Disney wants to even break even. I think it would have to make money. But if it's like not even doing that, then yes, in time they may just offload it.
No, 100%. See, that's something I'm kind of curious about. I really, really am curious because I have to tell you, dude, back in the day, going to downtown Disney, dude, I can't tell you how many times I went in the ESPN zone. I loved it. And there were times I walked in there and they're doing a live taping, like a live actual taping of the hell you call it, of Sports Center there. And I was like a kid in the candy store. I'm like, oh my God. They have the big cameras, the big lights, the the interaction. It's awesome. And we just actually saw that. It's interesting because we just saw that with the MLB. When the MLB goes in the spring training, season, we see it from the sports park at Walt Disney World, where the MLB and the MLB Network has a partnership with Disney, and they kind of do a collaboration. So again, I agree with you. If the numbers are not where they want it to be, I could see it offloading. But not only is Disney investing into more of ESPN zone or ESPN, but then you have again, you have ABC Sports, you have MLB that they're collabing with, you have the NFL. They even collaborate with the NBA during playoff season and the NBA finals and all that. So again, I think the sports aspect of the company is anchored down. Could it be better? Absolutely, it could be better. But is it going away anytime soon? My personal opinion, I don't think so.
Right now, I don't think so.
No.
I mean, even though it lost 23% of the operating income, the gross revenue still brought in 4.9 billion, which is a 1% increase. So as long as they're seeing some sort of increase, that's all the company needs to see.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's kind of tying back to what I said about Tomorrowland, because I brought this idea to you about Epcot. When you look at Epcot in its early days, what was the common denominator that you saw at Epcot? It was attractions sponsored by companies. And if the new CEO wants to sit there and kind of split half and half, have IP, but also go back to original concept, Tomorrowland would be a beautiful, beautiful blueprint on going back to that original concept of what Epcot was back in its heyday, where you had attractions sponsored by companies. And on the other hand, it's like, again, Disney is acting like a real estate agent, leasing their IPs out to these companies, and the companies are footing the bill, and Disney's sitting back in the lawn chair, reaping the rewards.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing with the sports thing.
That is true. And Rodeo says it was reported last week that ESPN will be remote at Disneyland this Sunday for Super Bowl Sunday and post game on Monday with the Super Bowl winner. And that's very true, because anytime that there is a winner, whatever team it is for the Super Bowl or the World Series, or sometimes even with the Stanley Cup for hockey, they always seem to find their way, to majority of the times it's at Walt Disney World. They do like the parade, but sometimes they do come out to Disneyland and everything. So yeah, Disney is still very invested in the sports. And even the day before D23 Day at Disneyland, this I think is the second or third year they've been doing this. They hold a D23 event at Angel Stadium. That's during an Angels game.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, they always kind of like incorporate that. Let's see. Alexander Wilson says the YouTube TV carriage outage cost ESPN 110 million revenue for this last quarter. ABC is broadcasting the Super Bowl next year.
Absolutely.
And
Oh,
then Vegas Disney RTV says, yeah, they need to bring back ESPN Zone to Disneyland.
but see, as much as I love that idea, Vegas Disney RTV, and I couldn't agree with you anymore. Literally, I love that idea. I really do. I kind of feel that the ESPN zone, not well, Rainforest too, but mainly ESPN, they're using that building for now. They're saying, okay, well, instead of having a vacant building doing nothing and being basically a big ass broom closet, let's utilize it where we can gain revenue from it because it is a massive footprint, and put it to good use for the short term, because eventually what's going to happen, and Breaky brought this up last night, was okay, well, eventually they're going to tear down the ESPN Zone building. Eventually they're going to rip out the Rainforest Cafe. And what's going to wind up happening is whatever they build in the Lilo and Stitch parking lot, that's going to be one of the main grand entryways into that area. So eventually those buildings are going to be non-existent. But in the meantime, not as much as ESPN, or I mean Rainforest, but ESPN, they're cross-utilizing that building for now. They spent a little bit of money, retrofitting the building, making it look kind of aesthetically pleasing for now. That kind of fits the rest of the theme of the area of the new downtown Disney. But instead of leaving it vacant and doing nothing, they said, let's gain some revenue from it. Let's lease out spaces in this building because it's such a massive building, and let's reap rewards from it. Let's gain revenue until we're ready to say, you know what, we're ending the agreements, we're going to tear down this building, we're ready to build in the Lilo and Stitch parking lot.
Yeah. I think that's the route that they're going to go. I really do. I think, or at least that's the route they should go.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Giant Peter Adventures asked, George, did you guys reserve T-Rex? No, I didn't reserve T-Rex, although I do think it's really cool. I mean, if we have time, I may be able to sneak it in. The beauty part that I could for T-Rex is I'm also a Landry's member, so T-Rex is part of that. But I'm for sure I could also get a reservation if need be.
Absolutely. And then let's see.
Chris West says 2 tenants are missing from that building too.
They are. And I really honestly feel that they will be coming very soon. I don't know when. I would imagine those tenant spaces will be filled. I can almost be certain of it by the time the beginning of summer, or at least halfway through the summer, because I kind of feel that, again, Disney's goal is by leasing out space to third-party vendors, companies, whatever you'd like to call them. One of the biggest shopping times is the winter time. So Disney really wants to take advantage of that and have these tenants move in. So, it's coming. I'm not going to say it's not coming, but I've publicly stated this many, 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 many times, is that out here on the West Coast, and this kind of goes on both sides with Disney and Universal, it just seems like Universal might be building things a little bit faster. The West Coast, when it comes to building stuff, it's a very slow process. Like, I mean, extremely slow. How long did we take for Portos? And now they're as of the time of this recording, there's nothing left of the old La Brea Bakery building, and they're starting to lay the groundwork, lay the foundation after they get rid of all the rubble and stuff for portos. But how long did that take? A year. So that's what I mean. You know, when you look at stuff like that, and then you look at Orlando's market when it comes to the theme parks, Universal, Disney World, how much more faster does it happen out there than it does out here? Because there's, again, California, for whatever reason, and this goes for almost anything, literally for whatever reason, when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to building new things, when it comes to whatever related topics there is that's tied to that subject, for whatever reason in California alone, we love to go through the red tape. And I still, to this very minute, get irritated amongst all hell about it, because we're paying these insane, crazy prices for housing, for essentials like food, gas for our vehicle, insurance, so on and so on. And these companies have no choice to keep afloat. They have to raise their prices in California, because that's just the way California is run. And it's kind of sad, in my opinion, not to get political, but but then you look at Universal Orlando, or you look at the Florida market, yeah, they're raising prices too, but that's because a lot of people have sat there and they have they have what do you call it? They have how can I put it? They don't have that problem, because you have people that left California, people that have left states and cities that kind of run on the same motto that California is doing. And everyone's moving to Florida because it's accommodating. You know, the governor there, he's trying to get rid of property taxes and sales taxes, and all the taxes are a lot less. Gas prices are a lot less, and so on and so on. But then when you look at California, love going through red tape, and we have insane prices out here. So put two and two together, and what you got?
Yeah.
You got people leaving.
And I was just going to say, and Peter beat me to it. Yeah, currently right now, Florida has no state taxes. For quite some time, they haven't had state taxes. All they have is the toll booths, which are pretty easy to avoid. If you go like the back roads and stuff.
100%. No, 100% by far. So, and that's something we got to evaluate. It's not something that it's not something we should overlook. That's kind of how I kind of feel about it. Again, feeling this passionate, and again, I've learned a lot from Bricky, and I will continue to learn a lot from Bricky, because he has a lot of great subjects, and thinking about these topics, and just everything, and about the parks, and how YouTube works, and so on, so on, so on, and so on. But at the end of the day, and we've talked about this, George, we have. At what point will the Disneyland Resort go to great lengths to want to pivot, to sit there and make the Disneyland Resort like Walt Disney World, where they cater to tourism, and really kind of put the locals behind? And what are they going to try to pivot to make that happen? Price increases, having it more complicated to make reservations. Like George and I are going to be at DCA on the 5th to kick off the Magic Key event at DCA for the 25th anniversary. And one of the things we've talked about in the last couple of days is, we have to sign up for a virtual queue system, which is at noon. which everyone and their mother that's going to be there that day is going to jump on the same system at the same time.
Yeah, we're
And
probably gonna crash that thing.
yeah, it's going to crash it all for a magnet set. And don't get me wrong, George wants the magnet set. I want the magnet set. But I also
That better be a pretty good damn quality magnet set to have us put all in the like. It better not be like that cheap stuff that you buy like at the dollar store or something.
Yeah.
Like I hope it's like good quality that they're going to put us in a virtual queue for.
Yeah.
But Alexander Wilson says, don't forget that California has some of the lowest property taxes in the country. So if you're a homeowner, it's wonderful to live in Cali.
Yeah. And you're not wrong about that, but go ahead.
Sorry. And then Peter says, as I said, it was $1,000 for a one-day ticket for a group of 5 for DCA. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Then, what is the magnet set? Oh, and Jacob Weller, welcome in, and love my shave. Thank you so much. Yeah, I actually I did it like a couple days ago, and you can kind of already see.
See, that's what I mean. And so Jacob, I'm gonna get firsthand of this. I'm not even kidding, because I'm gonna be literally living with George for 2 weeks in Walt Disney World, and I'm gonna tell you this: he could shave literally that hour, and then the next hour he's already starting to grow it back. It's like it's almost
It's like after I shave, like because what I do is I lay like a mat down over the sink, so
sure.
that way it's a disposable mat. So I just fold it in and then just throw it away. So that way I don't have hair everywhere. But I think it's so funny that after I like have a full beard and I shave and it clumps all together, it looks like a jellicle cat, you know. So it's
it's funny because it kind of reminds me of Tim Allen and the Santa Claus when he starts getting the beard.
Literally you shave and in seconds it just and then he just looks in the mirror and he goes, I'm in big trouble. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
But John was what is the magnet set? Honestly, John, I'm not sure, to be honest. Did they even show a picture of it?
That's what I was gonna ask you. Did they show it?
I don't think so. I don't think they showed anything on it.
If anyone in the chat has any information about that, please let us know. And if you do, please send the link to our Instagram through messages, because I'm very curious about that. We're only days away from this, and they haven't shared any details about that.
Yeah, I don't. They actually haven't even said what the characters were, what the backdrops were for the photo ops. They didn't really give any information on it.
Interesting. Well, good thing we have a reservation. I guess we'll just have to be surprised.
I guess so. I think that's probably why they just wanted people just to go and experience it for themselves, so we can get our $2.99 magnet set. Cody Anderson says Disneyland locals spend more than Disney World locals, so I think Disney will want both locals and tourists. That's the end goal, I think, for Disneyland. They want more tourists.
They do.
Let me see. And then Peter said $1,000 versus $660 for Disneyland Paris.
That's insane.
4 new rides. Yeah, that's crazy. And Jacob says, haha, jungle cat. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. And then Jacob Weller says, looking dapper, you go in the Epic Universe too. So George, I'm gonna let you talk about
to answer. Yes. So yeah, we are well, thank you, Jacob, by the way. And yes, so we are going to go to Epic Universe. We're doing both the Universal Experience and Walt Disney World. We're going to do Universal first. We're going to do several days there, and then we're going to do the second half for Walt Disney World, but we're staying at Walt Disney World for the whole duration of the trip.
Absolutely. And that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to, because that's something Bricky brought up as did I go mute?
Oh, there you go. You just froze for a few seconds. You're good.
Oh, lovely. See, I'm psyching you out. I'm psyching everyone out. No, but that's something Bricky actually brought up to me and Tommy as well. discussing tips and tricks about Walt Disney World, he's like, when you go to Walt Disney World, and George, you've also said this as well. When you go to Walt Disney World and you experience, especially the Magic Kingdom, Epcot, literally all of it, and then you come back home to Disneyland, you're like, oh, I see how they did that, especially with the Magic Kingdom, because the Magic Kingdom is basically a carbon copy of what Disneyland is, but just at a bigger scale. And then, Bricky's like, when you go experience that, and then you come back and then you start analyzing what the comparison factor, you better understand for content related purposes on what the justifications were. So that's something I'm definitely going to be doing research on, and I can't wait to do that and then have him back on the show, because he definitely wants to come back on the show and kind of break down how me and Tommy analyze things, how we kind of experience things, what our highs and lows were.
Let me know when he does, because I would actually like to join that one.
Absolutely. And it'll be you, myself, OG, Tommy, and it'll be Bricky, because he wants to know. And it's funny, it's not just him. It literally is not. I've been contacted for the last couple weeks, and I love this. I've been contacted by Leaving Today's podcast. There's several other individuals that want to have me on their show to talk about this, because they're all like, okay, if this is going to be your first time going out there, we want a perspective factor, because we all know that you've been to Disneyland 150,000 times. We know you've been to Universal the same amount, and I'm over exaggerating, but still been there a lot of times. And now you're going into these other resorts that basically have the same type of style, but at a way bigger scale, have different attractions that you don't have back home. And the architecture is a lot different than what you're used to out here. So there's a lot of channels that want to get my opinion on this, but absolutely, when I do come back, or when we do come back, I definitely want to get you on there as well, and kind of, interact with all of us, and really break this down, because I think it's going to be another I'm going to call it right now, and I'm not trying to sports bet ideas here, but I think it might be another 3 or 4 hour live stream with Bricky on that.
It's really possible. Oh yeah, it's very easy, especially on that topic. So John Make It Rain says more winter. Yeah, I'm glad, like, it's kind of waiting it out for us to go in March, because I really don't want to. The fact that Florida's even having winter weather is beyond me. I'm for sure they're probably all losing their minds down there, because they're not used to that. So the fact that it even went into the single and negative numbers.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, it's funny, because Jared from Capture the Magic was in the chat last night. He's like, I didn't move here to sign up for this crap. I came from this. I didn't want this crap. What the hell is this shit? So believe me, when you have people like that saying that, it's like, it's unheard of. And then I think it was Rudio says we need more Tommy on content. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something me and Tommy have also talked about, because again, he's gonna focus heavily on the food. But
I talked to him as well about it too, because just a lot of like the scheduling, between for him and for us, and also too, you and I were under the weather for a couple weeks, so that put a damper on stuff.
Absolutely, but I can assure you, Rudio, that me, George, and Tommy will be doing content together. So Tommy is not Tommy is going to be a big part of our trip. I can assure you of that when it comes to content, and a lot of amazing content. Again, like I stated all the time during the intros and outros, is that Tommy is literally the modern day Steven Spielberg. Me and George have seen it firsthand on location when he goes into detail. He's taking all these different angles of the food. He's going zoom out. It's phenomenal how he does it. It's incredible. Even Bricky himself said it last night. He's like, dude, me and you have to do a collab together on a food item. I love your just attention to detail. And Bricky was like, I kind of got the feeling that Bricky was like, oh my gosh, you have a good thing going on it. Expand on it. Develop it more. You really are starting something amazing. So keep at it. Work hard. Innovate it more. So believe me, Rudio, we will be doing a lot of content with Tommy. There will be no shorthand of content with Tommy. So definitely stay tuned for that. 100%.
Absolutely. And Jacob Weller says, will you do a review and opinion on your trip and what you would change, if anything? Because we actually have talked about this, and I even encouraged both Conductor and Tommy that not even just doing content during the trip, but after the trip, we're definitely going to be doing a lot of reviews and stuff that have their positives, their negatives, because I'm for sure there's going to be some negatives, constructive, feedback, especially when you're comparing it to Disneyland. I'm for sure there's going to be some likes, some dislikes, but that's what makes great conversation.
Absolutely.
And John Make It Rain asks, can you hype live streams? I don't know if you can hype it while it's live. Can you hype it while it's live?
I don't think so, and I don't know if you could do it after the fact. But John, I could tell you the best way, literally the best way, to support not just me and and Hollow Gelato and others, but the best way to do so, in my personal opinion, is just smashing that like button, and like you've been doing all morning, engage it in the conversation, and just be here and watching and interacting with us. That literally, that's the best thing I can recommend. And then if, again, like many people have, since we've done live streams and other people have done live streams, if you want to show extra support, and if you and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Because again, like George mentioned, we have a lot, and I mean a ton of content going to be coming out of Orlando. And if you want to further, again, if you want to even further that, me and George have memberships on our channels. You can send super chats again, that's at your discretion. But the basic advice I could give you: like and subscribe, watch the content, interact with us, ask us questions so we can answer it. That's the best way I can advise. But I forgot who you pulled up, George, about the live stream aspect. I've told George this, what I would like to do, and I'm going to try to pull it off, because obviously trying to do a live stream in the park, I'm going to try it. I'm not saying I'm not going to try it. It is a little chaotic, but it's not that I don't want to try it, because I am going to do it. But one of the things that I'm going to try to explore while I'm out there is doing a full day at the park. And then, since we're going to be 3 hours ahead out there, and you guys are going to be 3 hours behind, I might do live streams at the end of the night.
You know when to best do the live streams, honestly, coming from someone who has done them, especially at Walt Disney World, because that way it doesn't take away from your day.
Sure.
From experiencing the day activity, but it also helps. If you want to do a live stream, do it during the nighttime shows.
Yeah,
like Happily Ever After and Luminous at Epcot.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I'll probably be doing that. Let's see. John says, apparently the Chris Pratt movie is a big hit. Theme park conductor, are you gonna go see it?
He's referring to the movie Mercy. Actually, Abby and I went to go see it yesterday, for which everyone, the out of theater non-spoiler review is up on Hollow Gelato. definitely go check it
Well,
out. I have to say, it is a really good movie.
okay, I was just going to ask you without giving anything away, is it worth seeing? Because I personally, when we were at the theater again, this was literally the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. With Abigail's whole setup about watching Five Nights at Freddy's because she didn't want to watch it. But one of the trailers was for this Chris Pratt movie, and I told George, I'm like, I want to see this thing because it's something that I can see happening in 20, 30 years.
And it's
Literally.
so funny, we actually brought that up on our review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the realm. So I
Yeah.
definitely want to see
But
it.
it's a nail biter kind of movie, and it's not your typical movie, and it's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like where you know how it's going to end, sort
Yeah.
of. So there's a lot of twists and turns with it.
Absolutely. And then oh man, we just got several comments. John says you got to put a non-spoiler review in the title so people know that it doesn't have any spoilers.
That is true. That is true. I really should put that in there so that more people can view it, because a lot of people I do know, when they see out of theater review, then they're like, should I watch it? Should I, so yeah, definitely thanks for that, John. And Alexander Wilson said, are you talking about Mercy? I knew people who saw it and didn't like it. Yeah, I think honestly I mean, there's going to be movies where people like it and then people don't like it. I personally, the theater was packed, believe it or not, when I went.
Sure.
Which we had to deal with unruly, talkative teenagers. Which the guy behind us actually had to tell them twice to hush.
Wow.
Well, better him than me. But I thought it was a really good movie. I really liked it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then George versus the
if you want to see a good movie, go see Send Help. A lot of people has been saying the Send Help movie is which is actually produced by the Walt Disney Company. So
interesting. I definitely will see it. But George, was there anything you wanted to cover that had anything to do with this earnings call?
No, I think actually I was just going to ask you the same thing. I think again, it was really a great first quarter, I think, of 2026, and I think it's just going to keep going up. The trajectory is just going to keep going up.
I think so.
Did Mercy have an AI message, either pro or cautionary, or not really? I will say this: the movie is center based on how AI could potentially work in the system with everyday operations. So I think it has a pro, but also has a cautionary, and they address both. And I like that because it's not just leaning towards one side of the spectrum. They face both of how there could be a positive, but there could also be a negative.
No, absolutely. And then I want to just ask everybody in the chat, since we were talking about as well, not just the financial earnings call, but what our plan is when it comes to content between Paulo Gelato, myself, theme park conductor, Tommy Toon World. Does anyone want? And I'm gonna take requests. I'm gonna start this until all the way leading up to us going on the 4th. Does anyone have any requests that you would like to see? Because I want to, as someone that I kind of feel provides a public service in a way, I want to take requests. Obviously, don't ask me to go to Discovery Island or go jump over a construction fence to go to the frickin' play pavilion or extinct play pavilion. Don't ask me to do that. But anything that's in the parks, do you guys want me to go check out an area? Maybe cover something. please let me know and let George know as well. George, because that's what it's all about. Again, and I love this coming from George. He's referenced it so many times. He's like, I'll tell you what. I'm like, I am literally going to be ecstatic through the camera. So his phone filming me and Tommy, literally with our cameras and our rigs and whatnot, walking up and seeing Cinderella's castle for the first time. George has consistently said during live streams, during videos, he has consistently said, literally, the best thing I love as being a travel agent, a travel advisor, is seeing people's reaction for the very first time, which is a one and done situation about something like that. So I can't wait to give him that reaction because I'm definitely going to have a reaction seeing the Magic Kingdom's Cinderella Castle. But Giant Peter's adventure, and maybe you could clarify this, George. He says, "Do the Beverly." What was that?
Well,
oh boy, is this something off the rails or something?
no. Yes.
Oh God.
I will say it is a rite of passage if you're
Oh,
going
boy.
to Walt Disney World at Epcot that you have to have the Beverly.
Oh,
That
boy.
is another thing that I have to
Oh, you
record.
have planned. Okay, so
that I have to record you guys because
oh boy.
it is a drink.
Oh boy.
It's free.
Okay.
That you get a little Coca-Cola, little like Dixie cup kind of thing, and they have
Okay.
different drinks that come from around the world. And there's one that's called the Beverly, which is notorious that people utilize for Instagram and TikTok and everything. So again, it's that rite of passage.
Okay. No. Hey.
And Giant Peter says, I take 5 shots every time I ride Cosmic Rewalk. It's a tradition.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if my body can handle 5 shots and then going on something like that.
Yeah. My mom, here's the funny thing. This was actually before we knew what Beverly was. And this was back in 2007. We did a mother-son trip to Walt Disney World. And
Sure.
I had my digital camera, before phones were actually the camera. And we just said that we were going to pick, this was at the time when it was Club Cool. And I picked a drink, and then she picked Beverly, and I got her on camera, and it was a memorable moment. I'll say that.
Sure. No,
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait. But George, again, thank you so very much for having me on this earnings call live stream. Again, I'm kind of used to it anyway because I'm up at these weird hours for my work. So it wasn't like, I feel like crap, but I'm going to do it anyway because I made a commitment. No, I love doing it. I can't wait to do another one with you, and especially the shareholders meeting. I definitely want to do that.
And I am going to, and actually that would be my first shareholders meeting doing live because I never did shareholders meeting live. So that'll be my first time too. So,
interesting.
We will do that.
And I can't wait for that. And then, like everyone in the chat, again, there's going to be no shortage, I can assure you, of content, whether it's live streams, POVs, or me and George sipping 2 straws and 1 drink, or George chasing I don't know, tomorrow down down the street, or Tommy meeting someone that he's ran into, or just the possibilities are endless. And then obviously there's things I don't know about the trip that George has planned that he's keeping close to the vest. So I'm kind of speculating in my head, kind of driving myself nuts on what that could be. So I can't wait to see what that's all about. So again, I want to thank George for being an amazing host on this amazing legendary live stream for the 2026 first earnings call. again, they're worth some things we wanted to hear, didn't hear, but again, that just hypes it even more for what could possibly be. And then I want to thank everybody in the chat for interacting with us, asking your questions. And you can find me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Theme Park Conductor, on Instagram at theme_park_conductor. Or if you see my logo by just typing the whole name, just like you see it on the screen, you can find me there as well. Because sometimes Instagram, pops it up. I don't know what its deal is. It has a mind of its own. And then on X, you can find me at Theme Conductor, TikTok at Theme Park Conductor 1, and every Sunday at 5 or 7 p.m. for Conductor Sunday live stream, as we have amazing guests like the one and only George from Hollow Gelato with a spicy Italian opinions, and telling me stories about how he chases future CEOs down the street, and so much more. And then we have legends like Hey Bricky on last night's live stream. It was it was so legendary to have him on. Can't wait to have him back on after the trip. And then we have Tommy Toonworld with his world famous food reviews, Orange Grove 55, and just so many others. So many others that either have come on my show or I've gone on their show talking theme parks, which, you guys all saw it. Me and George spent 11 hours straight talking about theme parks. So, the concept is it sprawls everywhere. Like literally it sprawls everywhere. We could talk about it for hours and hours and hours. But again, thank you guys so much for being a constant supporter of Hollow Gelato and Theme Park Conductor.
Absolutely. And I echo Conductor's comments and statements. And Giant Peter Adventures asking, will you guys be live later this week when the CEO gets announced?
Absolutely.
If the CEO gets announced, oh yes, we will be boots on the ground, ready for the breaking news announcement. That's just how we roll. Also too, folks, if you were in the middle of the live and you got a notification about a Hollow Gelato video, it actually finally uploaded. So I did a collab video with Drew, the Disney dude. So if you haven't seen the premiere, once we're done with the live, definitely jump over to Hollow Gelato and watch that video. It was a great conversation I had with him. And also, speaking of Drew, the Disney dude, we will be having him on a live right before our trip to discuss his interpretation and knowledge of Walt Disney World. So definitely, as Conductor had said earlier, just like, subscribe, hit that notification bell on both of our channels for all new content that will be coming out, especially before, during, and after the March trip. A lot is going to be coming out. And again, thank you all so much for joining this live and the first quarter earnings call for 2026. And we're going to get out of here because I need a couple more Z's because I was up at like 4:30 in the morning. So, and also too, I actually in 5 minutes, I actually have to get the event tickets for Star Wars night. And
Oh, geez.
oh, no, wait, I take that back. No, I don't. It's on the 3rd. Someone said it was the 2nd, but it's on the 3rd. I take that back. So I have one more day. Thank God. So that way I don't need to do that. In any case, folks, I'm rambling on. Thank you all so much for joining Hollow Gelato and Theme Park Conductor. So as I always say, I'm George the Disney Italiano. And as I always say in Disney Italiano fashion, stay safe, stay healthy, stay Disney. Italiano out.